Chapter 515. Xiaoyan raised his brows when he heard Marquis Jinghuan's words. "Oh, that guy has a new backer?" Marquis Jinghuan's voice resounded in the air. "That dual-pupiled Shi Tianyi is currently cultivating in White Cloud Mountain." Hearing the three words White Cloud Mountain, even Fei Yi and Mou's gazes fell on Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan's gaze was a little cold as he lightly clenched his fists. White Cloud Mountain was located at the border of the Great Zhou Empire and the Great Qin Empire. It was almost the center of the divine land and the number one cultivation sacred ground of the human cultivation world, Taishu Temple. Taishu Temple was the number one sacred ground of the human race in the Great Heaven primordial world. In the past, it was known as one of the three sacred grounds along with the Great Thunderclap Monastery and the Mount Shu Sword sect. Taishu Temple was publicly recognized as the leader of the three sacred grounds. Its disciples were all talented and outstanding. Taishu Temple had always been the leader of the human race in every war against the demon race in Tianwan continent. After the war, Taishu Temple was in charge of keeping a close eye on the movements of the demon race. Most of the sect attention was placed on the demon world, but even so, no one dared to have any ideas about Taishu Temple. In the history of the human cultivation world, both the Great Lane Monastery and the Mount Shu Sword sect had suffered great calamities. Their mountain gate had been attacked, and the Great Lane Monastery's orthodoxy had been completely destroyed in the battle to exterminate Buddhism. Only the Void Temple, for countless years, made other human forces unable to have the confidence to fight against it. The White Cloud Mountain rarely experienced the flames of war, and they all happened during the war between the two worlds. However, unlike the Great Thunderclap Monastery, which had half of its monastery destroyed by Yuang's celestial sea back then, the White Cloud Mountain had never been breached. In the long history of the human race's cultivation world, the Void Temple has always appeared as an arbiter, balancing the disputes of all sides, preserving the strength and vitality of the human race, using the world as a chess piece. Even the Great Thunder Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect of the three Great Holy Lands are all in the Void Temple's calculations. Once upon a time, when he was young, Xiaoyan hoped that one day he could enter the Taishu Temple and bring honor to his ancestors. Naturally, Xiaoyan no longer had such thoughts, but it didn't mean that he didn't know what it meant for Shi Tianyi to join the Taishu Temple. Originally, Shi Tianyi only had the Shi clan and Yu clan standing behind him, and to Xianmen Tianzong, it was completely insufficient. But now that Shi Tianyi had climbed up the Taishu Temple, it was as if he had jumped from two small dinghies directly onto an invincible giant ship that could traverse the heavens. No matter who he finds as his backer, he must repay the justice he owed in the past. Lin Feng's voice suddenly rang out between heaven and earth, shaking the world. Xiaoyan laughed when he heard that. The conflict between his junior apprentice brother, Shi Tianhao, and the dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi, was irreconcilable. No matter who stood in their way, this enmity must be avenged. If God obstructed him, he would kill God. If Buddha obstructed him, he would kill Buddha. Not even a Taishu Temple. There were some things that absolutely could not be conceded. Shi Tianhao himself would not give this face, his group of apprentice brothers would not give this face, and his master Lin Feng even more so would not. Xiaoyan thought of over a year ago when Lin Feng personally brought him to the Cellerita's Sword Sect's Cloud Travel Peak, the matter of the 3-year battle agreement. The Cellerita's Sword Sect was naturally unable to be mentioned in the same breath as the Taishu Temple, but to Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong, the reasoning was all the same. Master, it's impossible for the Taishu Temple's people to not know about the dispute between that Shi Tianyi and junior apprentice brother. Since that's the case, still wanting to take him in as a disciple, this is equivalent to clearly provoking me, Xianmen Tianzong. Xiaoyan muttered to himself and said, "This is not in line with their usual style of doing things. With the foundation and status of the Taishu Temple, no matter how much more genius Shi Tianyi has, no matter how much more potential he has, they still shouldn't make an exception. It's not that Taishu Temple would fear and dread Xianmen Tianzong, but rather that they had their own consistent way of doing things that had already been carried out for countless years. It was impossible for them to change it for a certain person. No matter how outstanding that person was, placed in the long river of history, it was also unable to be mentioned in the same breath as the Taishu Temple itself. Lin Feng sat upright on Yujing Mountain, using mana to send a voice transmission to Xiaoyan. The Taishu Temple is divided into the conservative faction and the radical faction. Even though the conservative faction has always been in charge, the power of the radical faction is not weak, and they have always been actively laying out plans. Before this, Pang Jie quietly handed over the position of Dao's world wayfarer, and since then, the radical faction has laid down their banners and made little movements. But how could they possibly be content with the status quo? Lin Feng said lightly, the radical faction wants the Taishu Temple to rule over the heavens and become the master of humanity. So naturally, they would want to recruit talents from all over the world. The Taishu Temple's own disciples are all talented, but there's no such thing as too few geniuses, especially people like Shirtiani who can be said to be world-shaking. Lin Feng chuckled. Little Yin, do you think that Marquis Jing Huan told us this news out of kindness? Xiao Yin came to a realization. Master, are you saying that Marquis Jing Huan is also one of the people that the radical faction of the Taishu Temple is secretly recruiting and training? That's right, that's exactly it. Lin Feng said calmly. He leaked the news to us because he wants to use me, Xianmen Tianzong, to get rid of a competitor. Xiaoyan grinned. But master, this guy is a little too arrogant. I think he's confused. Even the Taishu Temple wouldn't be willing to provoke the Phoenix Clan, right? They're forcefully pushing the Phoenix Clan to the side of the Demon Clan. When the time comes, they'll have another strong enemy in the war between the two realms. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth curled into a smile. There are two possibilities. Either he has ulterior motives, or he's an idiot. Xiao Yin smacked his lips and said, Master, if you put it that way, then it must be the former. But to be honest, no matter how I look at it, this guy is more likely to be an idiot. Lin Feng laughed. Actually, it doesn't matter. If he has ulterior motives, then he'll definitely make further moves. You guys just have to wait and see. Xiao Yin had his divine power avatar, so it wouldn't be difficult for him to keep Marquis Jing Huan here. However, Lin Feng decided to leave this kind of recyclable gold mine for his disciple to slowly exploit. To the current Lin Feng, Marquis Jing Huan was indeed an unimportant figure. He was more interested in whether there was anyone else behind Marquis Jing Huan. Continue to escort Tong to Infinite Wilderness Vast Land and bring her back safely. Xiao Yin responded with a yes, and immediately followed Fei Yi NMOU to Infinite Wilderness Vast Land. Very soon, other phoenixes came to greet them. They had rushed over after receiving the message from Fei Ye's Phoenix Weeping Blood. A second-level Undying Demon Soul, Primordial True Spirit Great Sage, led the team. The others were also great demons that had cultivated undying demon souls. With so many demon race great sages entering the divine land, even if they were all phoenixes, it still attracted the attention of the human cultivation world. The primordial true spirit great sage had someone take Fei Yi, Xiao Yin, and the others to escort Lin Tong to Infinite Wilderness Vast Land. He himself remained in the divine land and waited for the human experts to arrive. He was about to demand an explanation from Marquis Jing Huan's matter. Afterwards, which human powerhouse arrived and how the two sides negotiated, Xiao Yin doesn't know. He and Lin Feng also no longer pay attention to this. That's something that the lustful Marquis Jing Huan who caused this disaster should worry about himself. In the sky, tens of thousands of miles away from the scene of the incident, a beam of black light suddenly appeared. As the light flashed, it transformed into a large flag. A luxuriously dressed youth appeared and stood in the void below the flag. It was none other than Marquis Jing Huan, who had just caused such a huge disaster. His expression was as calm as ever as he stepped into the grotto heaven opened up by the immortal imperial flag. The grotto heaven was divided into different spaces. Marquis Jinghuan's subordinates were in different spaces, and in other spaces, large amounts of resources were stored. There were all kinds of cultivation resources, treasures, armors, weapons, elixirs, and even money from the mortal world. Apart from that, the huge space was divided into several small compartments that were isolated from each other. Although they were called small compartments, in fact, each compartment was a vast world with different scenery. There were Jiangnan water villages, desert smoke, snow drifting in the north, pavilions and terraces. Every small compartment had one thing in common. In each compartment, there would always be a courtyard, either luxurious or simple. Marquis Jinghuan stepped into one of the small compartments and walked into a room in the courtyard. There were servants in the courtyard and maids in the room. In addition to these servants and maids, there was also a beautiful girl in her 20s. Silently sitting in front of an easel, she held a paintbrush and lightly tapped on the paper. When the girl saw Marquis Jinghuan enter, she smiled. The maids tactfully retreated and closed the door. Someone whispered, "The Marquis and the little foreign are very close. Among all the Furins, the little foreign is the most favored. The Marquis always wants to see the little foreign first. But I've never seen Lord Marquis spend the night in Madame's room. He always leaves after a few words. Yes, it's so strange. Although they tried their best to keep their voices low, how could their gossiping escape Marquis Jinghuan's ears?" He sat down on a chair and indifferently said, "Your maids will need to be replaced again." The girl said, "Your murderous nature is too heavy. There's no need to vent it on insignificant people." Marquis Jinghuan reached out and tapped the wooden easel. "Don't talk like that." The girl smiled and closed her eyes. Light appeared above her head, and the sound of Buddhist chanting and the fragrance of sandalwood wafted out. In the Buddhist light, one could vaguely make out the figure of a monk. The monk smiled and said, "To speak to this penniless monk in such a tone, you seem to be in a very bad mood." Marquis Jinghuan replied, "My good deed has been ruined, so I'm naturally in a bad mood. If you're dissatisfied, you don't have to cooperate with me." The monk smiled, filled with the wisdom of enlightenment. He was otherworldly, but the words he said made one's hair stand on end. "I can just kill you." Marquis Jinghuan replied, "You won't be able to find a better partner than me in a short period of time." "That's right. This penniless monk lacks nothing but time," the monk replied non-committally. "However, if you always have such a temperament, you will never have any hope of attaining the nascent soul realm in this lifetime. Even if time is tight, this penniless monk will have to consider changing partners." Marquis Jinghuan fell silent for a moment. Slowly, he said, "I misspoke before. Please forgive me, master." The monk smiled and said, "It's fine. Let's talk about what happened today." This penniless monk saw the entire process. From the looks of it, the master of the mystic gate actually returned the Wutong tree heart to the phoenixes. Marquis Jinghuan said, "The person who came from Xianmen Tianzong is indeed extraordinarily strong, but the master of the mystic gate actually succumbed to the phoenix's pressure and returned the Wutong tree heart that was already in his possession. It was truly disappointing. From this, it can be seen that this person is nothing more than this. He likes to scheme and balance too much. It's inevitable that he loses his edge." The monks seemed to be in thought. "You think so?" Marquis Jinghuan replied, "That's right. I'm very suspicious now. Does he have the courage to go against Taishu Temple for his disciple, Shi Tianhao?" Chapter 516. Marquis Jinghuanho said silently, "The master of the Mystic Gate's actions are similar to those of Taishu Temple's conservative faction. Although he has his methods, they're not his first choice. He has too many things to consider. In the secular world, the older one is, the more cowardly he becomes." Marquis Jinghuanho spoke at a moderate pace, his voice like flowing water. The stronger Xianmen Tianzong grows, the more apprehensions he has, the more restraints he has, as if he is shackled and shackled. Slowly, the monk said, "This penniless monk doesn't see it that way. If Taishu Temple guessed the master of the Mystic Gate, as you did, they might not get what they wanted." Marquis Jing Huanho said. The Wutong tree heart was sent to the Wutong forest in the end. The monk in the Buddhist light smiled. The Wutong tree emperor, suppressing his injuries isn't a bad thing for this penniless monk. It's just a different way of doing things. Marquis Jing Huanho snorted. Master, it doesn't matter much, but my troubles have just begun. The monk answered, Don't worry. This penniless monk naturally won't go back on his promise. He raised his palm and waved it gently. An image of light entered Marquis Jing Huanho's forehead. Marquis Jing Huanho trembled and immediately closed his eyes. Good. Marquis Jing Huanho's qi and blood shook like a furnace. After a long while, he calmed down and opened his eyes, which shone with divine light. Wait, that's not right. This is an incomplete image? He looked straight at the monk. The monk said indifferently, If it's complete, what use will Taishu Temple and the Great Zhou dynasty have for you? How can they protect you? If you want to keep it for yourself, you probably won't be able to hide it from them. Only with this penniless monk can you guarantee your safety. Marquis Jing Huanho stared at the monk for a long time. Slowly, he nodded but said nothing. The monk laughed. With this as a foundation, even if you provoke the phoenixes, Taishu Temple and the Great Zhou dynasty can tolerate you, support you, and even value you more. Moreover, even if the phoenixes completely side with the demons, both sides will only be evenly matched. This way, war won't break out in the short term. Marquis Jing Huan asked, Isn't this your intention, Master Jinghe? Thanks to the efforts of the Taishu Temple, the overall strength of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land was now stronger than that of planet Tianwang, which had been fighting nonstop. If the war between the two realms broke out in a short period of time, the human race would have a greater chance of winning. Many human cultivator forces were already silently plotting their next move. The seemingly peaceful Divine Land was, in fact, surging with undercurrents. The monk's plan was to increase the strength of the demons, but at the same time, he delayed the outbreak of the war. As for whether it was because he was compassionate or because he had other intentions, only he knew. After this incident, it will depend on how the Great Zhou dynasty and Taishu Temple appease the Phoenix clan. As long as it is handled properly, the Phoenix clan may not necessarily side with the Demon clan, change their original opinion, and intervene in the war between the two worlds. However, as long as this possibility exists, many people will have to consider it. If someone still insists on starting the war, then this penniless monk can also do more things. Eventually, the Phoenix clan will be drawn in. As the monk spoke, there was a hint of a smile in his tone. Isn't it exactly what you want if the war between the two worlds doesn't break out in the short term? Marquis Jing Huan did not deny it, and simply nodded. That's right. I still have a lot of potential that can be unearthed, but I need time. The war between the two worlds is a war between the entire Divine Land and planet Tianwang. It will be earth-shattering. Even the lives of ordinary essence soul cultivators are worthless. If the war breaks out at this time, I won't gain any benefits by hiding in the back. If I charge at the front, it will be easy for me to fall into the schemes of others and become cannon fodder. Marquis Jing Huan looked at his jade-white hands that contained boundless power. Slowly, he said, But with just a little more time, I will become a ruler. When that time comes, the war between the two worlds will be the stage for me to rise to prominence in the heaven primordial world. I will be the main character of this era. The demon race will be my meritorious service that will be passed down through the ages. Taishu Temple, the Great Zhou dynasty, and Xianmen Tianzong will all be my foil. The monk chuckled. The foil in your heart, or rather, the meritorious service in the future, also includes this penniless monk? Marquis Jing Huan said, That will depend on your final choice, master. The monk smiled. This penniless monk actually wants to choose to kill you now. Master, you won't. Marquis Jing Huan smiled faintly. At least in your eyes, you won't do that before my value to you is exhausted. In your heart, you have the absolute ability to control me and kill me at any time. Since that's the case, why don't you completely squeeze me dry? Everyone wanted to be the main character of an era. They all had their own schemes, and they all had their own confidence. As for who would have the last laugh, that would depend on each person's own ability. The monk said non-committally, "If you keep blabbering, then this penniless monk might one day be triggered and kill you first. After all, this penniless monk's Buddhist dharma has yet to be cultivated to perfection." Marquis Jinghuan smiled. "Master, don't joke. You have long seen through my heart and nature." The monk did not answer and instead said, "You want to give yourself time to grow, but there are others racing with you." Marquis Jinghuan exhaled lightly. "Master, are you talking about the disciples of the Mystic Gates Master, as well as the dual-pupiled Shirtiani and company? It is indeed a problem, but it's actually not that big of a deal. Just like that, Xiaoyan. This penniless monk will find him sooner or later. For now, I will raise him like a pig. When he is fat enough, I will slaughter him. That will give me the greatest harvest." Marquis Jinghuan smiled. "Three kinds of true fire. Hee, 3 kinds of true fire. I wonder if he can get a fourth? Can he get a pure, yang true fire?" The monk's eyes flickered. "I'm afraid he might not even have 4. Marquis Jinghuan was slightly taken aback. "Why do you say that, master?" Xiaoyan, who Marquis Jinghuan was thinking about, had already gone to Infinite Wilderness Vast Land. He was bringing Lin Tong to Parasol Tree Forest. As for Lin Feng, he remained seated on Jade Capital Mountain, pondering. Sure, Tianyi has found Taishu Temple's radical faction as his backer. If he can enter White Cloud Mountain to cultivate, Taishu Temple's conservative faction must have tacitly agreed. Interesting. Do you think I'm the same as you? You should know that some things can be balanced and calculated, but there are some things that cannot be discussed. Lin Feng sneered. I wonder if the Sure and Yu family's recent actions have anything to do with this? They feel that they have someone backing them up, so they can't judge their own weight anymore. A thought came to Lin Feng as he sent a voice transmission to Kong Nanhua. Nanhua, help me keep an eye on the Sure and Yu family's recent actions. Gather information from all sides, no matter how big or small. Don't let go of any abnormal actions. Kong Nanhua agreed, tore open the void, and left Jade Capital Mountain. After Lin Feng sent Kong Nanhua off, his eyes flickered as he looked at a cave abode on the mountain. Is it that Fire Fox? That is the location of Fox Yinyan's residence. Lin Feng's divine sense swept out and saw that in the stone room, Fox Yinyan directly shed her human form and turned into the true form of a fire fox. The black flames in her eyes continuously jumped, and behind her, 7 fox tails continuously swayed. The tips of the tails also ignited with black, mysterious heaven tribulation flame. Seeing this, Lin Feng came to a realization. 7 tails. Has she already recovered to the mid-stage Demon King realm? Fox Yin was using her own demonic power to refine the black heaven tribulation flames that had entered her body with great difficulty. From the looks of it, she wanted to subdue the black heaven tribulation flames in one go. Lin Feng shrugged his shoulders, stretching out a finger and pointing in the air. Vigorous mana passed through the air, directly landing on the top of Fox Flame's head that had transformed back to its original form. Surging purple chi entered Fox Yinyan's body and helped her refine the black heaven tribulation flames. At this moment, Fox Yinyan had reached the final stage of refining the black heaven tribulation flames. She was only one step away from success, but this last step was extremely difficult. It was more difficult than before, but with Lin Feng's help, it was like walking on flat ground. The 7 tails behind her were extremely huge, like raging flames. Soon, a new tail grew out. It was like a small flame, but at this moment, it was growing rapidly. It looked like it was about to become the same as the other 7 tails. This demon was about to recover her strength as an 8-tailed fox king, a late-stage demon king. After refining the black heaven tribulation flames, her strength had increased. After cultivating for a period of time, she would be able to break through to the immortal demon soul realm. In the process of helping her refine the flames, Lin Feng did not stand on ceremony and took about half of the black heaven tribulation flames. The calamitous black fire kept devouring everything it came into contact with. Even Lin Feng's magic power was no exception. Lin Feng could only use the celestial realm barrier's Dharma art to block it with the realm power. Even so, the black fire kept devouring and disintegrating the realm power, requiring Lin Feng to repair it. As expected of the demonic fire that is on par with the nether evil flame, Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He found something unusual about the black heaven tribulation flame in his hand. There was an imperceptible but extremely strange magic power mixed in the black fire. It was clearly separated from the black heaven tribulation flame and did not merge, but it was not easy to detect. It was as if it had merged into one. If Lin Feng had not used the celestial realm barrier to directly touch the black heaven tribulation flame, he would have been fooled. This was also Lin Feng. If it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to study the black heaven tribulation flame. Their magic power and divine sense would be directly devoured by the black heaven tribulation flame. Only the realm power of the celestial realm barrier could touch the demonic fire for a long time, and they finally found the problem. This magic power was not the demon power of the demon race, but the magic power cultivated by the human race's Taoist techniques. Silently, it was hidden in the black heaven tribulation flame. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth revealed a strange smile. As expected. The first time he had seen Fox Flame, Lin Feng had found that the black heaven tribulation flame in her body was a little unusual. The power of the profound heaven tribulation flame was very special. This type of flame was accustomed to devouring and burning all things to strengthen itself. Not only could it devour the magic power of cultivators and the demonic power of the demon race, but could also devour the other 6 types of supreme flame. However, the black heaven tribulation flame in Fox Flame's body was a little strange. It was in a semi-dormant state. The true fire's power had been fighting against Fox Flame's demon power, but it had not displayed its most terrifying devouring ability. Now it seemed that he had found the source of the problem. The magic power mixed in the black heaven tribulation flame was very strange. It had condensed into a solid form and was actually in the shape of a flame. It was hidden in the black fire as if it had merged with it, but it actually existed independently. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. This thing's power is very familiar. I get it. It's the great sun glass fire cultivated from the Mahavairokkana Sutra. Chapter 517. The fire-like magic power hidden within the profound heaven tribulation flame was shockingly the great sun glass, cleansing flame cultivated from Buddhist magic power. It was a pure and flawless Buddhist fire that was completely transparent. Although it wasn't one of the 7 great true fires of the world, its quality was above that of the unmoving Wisdom King's fury flame. Generally speaking, the most difficult problem for people who wanted to control the mysterious heaven tribulation flame was refining their own magic power. However, if you used your own magic power to refine it, it would be devoured by the mysterious heaven tribulation flame. If they failed to refine it, their magic power would become fuel for the mysterious heaven tribulation flame, making it stronger and stronger. As a result, it became more and more difficult to refine, falling into an endless cycle. That was why very few people had been able to control the mysterious heaven tribulation flame. On the other hand, the great solar glass flame itself wasn't very powerful, but it had a special characteristic, and that was that it was stable and unshakable. It had the true meaning of Buddha, distinguishing one's true self and being free and immortal. So it was extremely difficult for others to refine it. The mysterious heaven tribulation flame devoured everything to strengthen itself, but there were always exceptions. The great sun glass flame was one of the few things the mysterious heaven tribulation flame couldn't devour. Its destructive power couldn't compare to the mysterious heaven tribulation flame, but the mysterious heaven tribulation flame couldn't do anything to it. Fox Flame had obtained the great sun glass flame, which was why it had been able to subdue the mysterious heaven tribulation flame. However, the problem was that the great sun glass flame came from the Vairokkana scripture, which had been lost for many years. Who had cultivated this flame, and why had it been given to Fox Flame? If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to see through it. However, Lin Feng had the complete Virokana scripture. As long as he was willing, he could cultivate the great sun glass flame himself. Thus, he was very sure that there was a problem with Fox Flame's great sunglass flame. It was a version that had been modified by someone. It had been fused with the demon race's cultivation method, but after fusing with the Buddhist Dharma, it didn't seem out of place. In order to do this, at least two conditions had to be met. First, the person who had modified it had to have a very high cultivation level. Second, this person had to have cultivated both the demon race's cultivation method and the Buddhist Dharma to a very high level. In essence, both were peak cultivation methods that were deeply in line with the world's great Tao. In essence, both were top cultivation methods that were in line with the world's great Tao. If Lin Feng hadn't carefully analyzed it with the help of the Heavenly Realm Barrier's divine abilities and magic power, he would have inevitably fallen into the trap if he had casually put away the profound Heaven Tribulation Flame. Lin Feng couldn't help but suspect that Hu Yinyan herself might not have known, but the fact that she was picked up by Tuntin and Shi Tianhao was completely set up. After Tuntin showed up at the Desolate Sea Grand Assembly, it was not difficult for people to find out her background. Her grudge with the Blackwater, mysterious Ming clan, and the Fox clan was no secret. The Celestial Fox Great Sage had asked Lin Feng to leave the Fox Flame on the mountain, and Lin Feng had sensed that something was strange. But before carefully exploring the mysterious Heaven Tribulation Flame, the Great Sunglass Flame was hidden inside and not easy to find. Lin Feng hadn't figured out what was going on, so he let it be. No sacrifice, no gain. Lin Feng smiled. I'm afraid you've suffered a double loss. Lin Feng raised his palm and chopped down in the air. The celestial barrier Dharma power took effect once again and directly separated the great sun glass fire from the mysterious Heaven Tribulation Flame. Now, let's see who is behind this. Within the transparent firelight, a figure gradually appeared. It was a middle-aged monk in a Kasaya robe. His body glowed with Buddhist light, and he looked solemn, but there was clearly a demonic aura within the Buddhist light. Lin Feng raised his brows. Oh, a demon race, cultivator of the Buddhist Dharma? The middle-aged monk calmly looked Lin Feng in the eye and slowly said, Master of the Celestial Gate, you live up to your reputation. I was hoping for a fluke and was impolite. Lin Feng stared at him and said slowly, 4,000 years ago, the Great Thunder Sound Temple's Great Sun Buddha scripture was lost, but you managed to cultivate it. Did the Great Sun Buddha scripture get lost in infinite wasteland, or did you cultivate Buddhist Dharma in the Great Thunder Sound Temple? The middle-aged monk put his palms together and said, I'll talk to the Celestial Gate Master in detail the next time we meet. As he spoke, his figure actually began to gradually disappear. The transparent, great sun glass, cleansing fire's intensity, also began to weaken and was about to be extinguished. Lin Feng said indifferently, It's too late to leave now. The heavenly boundary barrier suddenly changed, and the sealing power of the boundary turned into an invisible giant hand, directly grabbing the glass heaven flame, spirit heaven flame, and forcefully stopping it from retreating. The middle-aged monk didn't waste any more words. He was originally sitting cross-legged, but he suddenly stood up and punched at Lin Feng from afar. When this punch was thrown out, a feeling of supremacy and dominance was immediately revealed, shaking the heavens and earth. This was the power concept of the Mahavirokana scripture, the Great Lane Temple Supreme Scripture, the five-direction Rulai scriptures, which was the strongest in terms of combat power. The strongest combat power of the Buddhist Dharma was also the general principle of the Great Sun Buddha scripture, the Great Sun Buddha palm. It was as if the Great Sun Buddha had descended to the mortal world, pointing at the sky and drawing the earth, saying that he was the only one in the world, the divine land, the strongest martial arts divine power of the human cultivation world. The punch had the power to shatter heaven and earth. In an instant, the explosive power almost shook off Lin Feng's heavenly capture. Lin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. Good move. In the boundary power of the heavenly boundary barrier, An earthen yellow figure with a majestic aura appeared and formed a seal with both hands. The powerful dermic power of the heaven-bearing seal suppressed the middle-aged monk. Although the great sun Buddha palm was strong, the middle-aged monk was only a condensed dermic power and divine will. It couldn't even be considered a divine power or dharma body. Facing Lin Feng seal that could suppress 10 lands and bear the weight of the 9 heavens, he could only be suppressed and couldn't move. The glass heaven flame, spirit heaven flame, was completely extinguished, but it wasn't that the other party had successfully escaped. Instead, it was completely sealed by Lin Feng. The middle-aged monk's expression was calm, and his divine will return to nirvana. His last thought flashed. Master of the Celestial Gate. We'll meet again soon. On a wasteland in the demon realm's infinite wasteland, a monk dressed in gray was walking slowly. This monk looked very young, only in his teens. He was extraordinarily handsome and had delicate features. He wore a somewhat tattered monk robe and stepped on the rough ground with his bare feet. The young monk stopped and looked up at the sky. 5 balls of light flashed in the sky, and 5 monks slowly walked out from the light. 4 of them stood in the east, west, north, and south directions, while the last one stood in the center above the young monk's head. The 4 monks in the 4 directions were shrouded in Buddha light. The one in the east was a calm and emaciated monk. His skin was dark, and he was so skinny that he looked like a bag of bones. However, above this skinny monk's head, Buddha light shot out and condensed into a huge ancient Buddha in the east. It was pure gold and glowed with blue light. The ancient Buddha sat on a throne carried by 8 elephants, holding a Vajra scepter and a bell. It was the image of the unmovable Buddha. On the west was an old monk. He was rather old, and his face was full of wrinkles. 2 long white eyebrows drooped down, and even his body was a little hunched. Buddha light shot out above the old monk's head and condensed into a huge Buddha in the west. Its body was also golden, but the light it emitted was red. The Buddha sat on a lotus flower and a full moon wheel. The throne below it was carried by 8 peacocks. It held a lotus in its right hand and a bell in its left. It was the image of the unmovable light Buddha. On the north and south sides were 2 young monks. One was expressionless while the other had a smile. Buddha light shot out from their heads and condensed into 2 Buddhas. In the south sky was a Buddha sitting on a lotus flower. In front of the lotus flower was a full moon wheel and a throne carried by 8 horses. The Buddha held a rui bead in his right hand and a bell in his left. He was the life Buddha of the 5 directions Buddhas. The Buddha light in the north sky condensed into the image of the unmovable light Buddha. He held a pair of Vajras in his right hand and a bell in his left. The throne was carried by a long-horned sang-sang bird. The 4 directions Buddhas surrounded and guarded the center. In the center stood a middle-aged monk. He was the monk who had interacted with Lin Feng earlier. Although his dharma was dignified and his body was enveloped by Buddha light, only the Buddha light above his head did not condense into the image of a Buddha. A handsome young monk dressed in gray stood on the wasteland. He raised his head and smiled at the 5 monks above him. Seems like there are gains and losses. The middle-aged monk in the center was the first to speak. The master of the Taoist sect lives up to his reputation. Not only did he discover the great sun-color glass fire, he even sealed it. I can't retract my Buddha power. It's very likely that he obtained the great sun Buddha palm imprint. Although there are only 3 forms of the imprint, it's still in his hands. The young monk in gray smiled. It's fine if it's only 3 forms of the imprint. The great sun Buddha scripture is incomplete, which is why you haven't been able to condense the great sun Buddha body. If the master of the Taoist sect can help to complete it, it'll be a great merit. I can't ask for more. He raised his head and looked at the young monk in the south. What about you? The young monk in the south smiled. It's all under control. Although it's a little unexpected that the master of the Taoist sect would return the Wutong Tree Heart, his eldest disciple, Xiaoyan, has also headed to the Wutong Forest with the 2 phoenixes. Perhaps it's for the pure yang fire of the phoenix race? The young monk in gray shook his head. There might be some other changes. The middle-aged monk in the sky looked at the young monk in the south who had manifested as Buddha. He frowned and said, "Why did you choose such a collaborator? He can't accomplish anything, but he's good at spoiling things. He's arrogant and doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If I were you, I'd crush him with a finger." The young monk chuckled and said, "Humility is empty, so is arrogance. What's there to care about?" The skinny monk of the east suddenly said, "Vairocana, you're angry." Silently, the middle-aged monk in the center said, "My cultivation is indeed not there yet. Let's not discuss this for now. We still have things to do." The young monk in gray smiled and patted his bald head. The 5 monks in the middle of the 4 directions in the sky descended and retracted the Buddha light into their bodies. On the other hand, their bodies gradually turned into light shadows. The 5 figures walked toward the young monk in gray and became one with him. In the end, the young monk was the only one left on the wasteland. It was as if the Buddha and the 5 monks in the 4 directions had never appeared. Time is running out. The young monk in gray smiled and continued forward, walking on the wasteland step by step. Chapter 518. On Jade Capital Mountain, Lin Feng sealed the power of the great sun glass fire and smiled. "So, I have to thank you for the gift. Buy one get one free. Other than the Shintian Calamity Flame, you also gave me the Vairocana Palm imprint." However, when Lin Feng scanned with his consciousness, he was stunned. Mahakasayapa imprint, Subhuti imprint, Ananda imprint. What is this mess? Although he had never truly seen the Vairocana Palm imprint, this martial arts divine ability was renowned throughout the heavens. Its fame spread far and wide, and there was no one in the vast 1,000 worlds who did not know of it. Although the 10 forms of the Vairocana Palm imprint had been lost, the world knew about it. The 10 seals were the fundamental imprint, Great Thousand imprint, Infinite imprint, Formless imprint, Bodhi imprint, Maha imprint, Sekhi imprint, Wisdom Fist imprint, Dharma Boundary imprint, and Vajra Realm imprint. Among them, the Maha imprint and Bodhi imprint were called this, not the abbreviation of the Mahakasayapa imprint and Subhuti imprint. Speaking of Mahakasayapa and Subhuti, Lin Feng thought, in the records of Buddhism, they seem to be one of the 10 disciples of Buddha. Ananda is also one of them. According to legend, in ancient times, the great wilderness changed, and the Buddha became a Buddha. He opened altars to preach and founded the Buddhist sect. There were countless people who listened to Buddha's teachings, and the 10 most outstanding people were called the 10 disciples of Buddha. The 10 disciples comprehended the great Tao of Buddhism together, comprehending the state of nirvanic freedom and emptiness. They saw their true selves and proved the state of emptiness. These 10 people were Mahakasayapa, Mugamlian, Faluna, Subhuti, Shariputra, Rulo, Ananda, Upali, Analuddha, and Jayajanyan. Buddha existed only in the heart. With Buddha in the heart, everyone could become a Buddha. Therefore, the great Thunderclap Monastery didn't worship Buddha himself, only the golden bodies of these 10 people. 4,000 years ago, Yuang Heavenly Sea destroyed half of the great Thunderclap Monastery, causing the golden bodies of the 10 disciples to disappear. Other than the 10 golden arhats, the Tempest Temple had also suffered many losses during the war between the 2 worlds. If not for that, the Allied forces might not have been able to eliminate the Tempest Temple so smoothly in the Buddhist extermination war. Lin Feng analyzed the 3 forms of Vairocana Buddha's palm that he had obtained from the middle-aged monk and gradually came to a realization. So that's how it is. This person doesn't have the true Vairocana Buddha scripture's general principles, nor did he learn Vairocana Buddha's palm. I'm afraid he searched the world by himself and found a lost golden form of Mahakasayapa, Subhuti, and Ananda. Then he deduced the 3 divine Palmadra by himself by analyzing the principles of Buddhism. Lin Feng carefully sensed the concept of power of the 3 Madra, Subhuti, and Ananda's seals. It seems right yet wrong, yet it's of the same origin. It can be said to be the new Vairocana Buddha's palm, but also the fake Vairocana Buddha's palm. However, after Lin Feng compared it with the Vairocana Buddha scripture that only lacked the general principles, he could still be sure that the three mudra deduced from the golden bodies of Buddha's disciples were inferior to the true Vairocana Buddha's palm in terms of power. But no matter what, this person relied on his own strength to recreate this divine art and the complete Vairocana Buddha scripture. His willpower, cultivation, and wisdom are all worthy of praise. At this moment, Lin Feng was interested in whether he could deduce the true Vairocana Buddha's palm based on these three mudra. I'll try it in the library when the time comes. Lin Feng smiled and turned his eyes to the other side, where Fox Yin Yin, who had returned to her original form, was still practicing silently, completely unaware of what had happened before. At this moment, a voice transmission crystal in Lin Feng's hand responded. The source was the Fox Clan Master of Infinite Region, the nine-tailed Great Sage of Celestial Fox. Lin Feng picked up the voice transmission, and a flat and dull voice came. Sec Master Lin, I'm sorry for what happened before. I'm here to apologize to you. My daughter Yin Yin didn't know anything, and I hope Sec Master Lin can forgive me. I'd like to offer a piece of Yuan Shun ancient skin that I personally refined as an apology. Please accept it. The Celestial Fox Great Sage was very straightforward. She lowered her posture as soon as she came up and directly asked for compensation and forgiveness. The Yuan Shun ancient skin that she mentioned was naturally not from an ordinary mirage demon. It was at least left behind by a big demon who had achieved the immortal demon soul realm. Both the Mirage Demon and the Fox Clan were demons who were proficient in illusory techniques, and they were originally at the immortal demon soul realm. The ancient skin of the Mirage Demon, after being personally refined by the Celestial Fox Great Sage, was bound to be extraordinary and deeply understood the essence of ethereal transformation. After refining the Black Heaven Calamity Flame, Fox Yin Yin would basically be able to achieve the immortal demon soul realm. With the Black Heaven Calamity Flame in hand, her strength would be even more extraordinary and her potential would be astonishing. Such a disciple was worth the Celestial Fox Great Sage paying a great price to redeem her. Lin Feng did not respond to the Celestial Fox Great Sage, but asked instead, "Who was that monk?" The Celestial Fox Great Sage was silent for a moment before replying, "I really don't know." That day, that young-looking monk came to my Qingqiu mountain, and the mountain illusory formation was nothing to him, and he came to me without asking. That person's origins are a mystery, and he cultivated the Buddhist techniques of the Tempest Temple as a demon. I couldn't see through his strength, but there is no doubt that he was above me. Lin Feng frowned slightly. "Oh, a young monk?" The Celestial Fox Great Sage said, "That's right. He took human form, and he was a teenager. It seems that the middle-aged monk from before was not himself, but a clone." Lin Feng thought about it. Buddhist cultivators see the heart and discern one's true self, and are known as the nemesis of the demon fox's illusory technique. It is not surprising that he could come to Qingqiu Mountain. After we met, this person used the Black Heaven Calamity Flame in exchange for my daughter, Yin Yin, to carry out a plan for him. The Celestial Fox Great Sage said frankly, "I agreed to it out of greed, but my daughter Yin Yin really didn't know anything. Please forgive me, Sect Leader Lin." An imperceptible smile appeared at the corner of Lin Feng's mouth, and he said flatly, "I will not make things difficult for your daughter, but it is not so easy to write off this matter. Celestial Fox Great Sage, you colluded with others to plot against me, and this debt is not something that can be repaid with the skin of the Yuan Shun." Silently, the Celestial Fox Great Sage said, "What request do you have, Sect Leader Lin?" Lin Feng said calmly, "Celestial Fox Great Sage, if you have the time, you can come to my Yujing Mountain for a chat." The Celestial Fox Great Sage came quickly, and with Lin Feng's permission, she went up Yujing Mountain and met Lin Feng in the main hall of Xianmen Tianzong, the Celestial Palace. She was in human form, and her appearance was that of an extremely ordinary middle-aged woman, but she gave off an easygoing and amiable feeling. Even though her facial features were ordinary, There was a different kind of beauty about her, and she was very good at looking at her. The more one looked at her, the less ordinary she seemed. But Lin Feng knew that this was the form of the celestial fox great sage, and not her natural human form. But that was not important. Lin Feng said something, and the celestial fox great sage suddenly fell silent. There was a dead silence in the hall. Lin Feng sat on the main seat, looking relaxed and unhurried. Silently, he waited for the celestial fox great sage's reply. After a long time, the celestial fox great sage finally said slowly, "I agree to sect leader Lin's request." Lin Feng smiled slightly. "In that case, the celestial fox great sage can take your daughter back." The celestial fox great sage let out a long sigh and left the mountain with Fox Yin Yin, who was still a little confused. Fox Yin Yin looked around and saw no one on the top of the mountain. She looked at the cloud bridges in the distance and the mountain rocks that were burning with raging flames. A faint and complicated feeling emerged in her heart. Lin Feng watched the celestial fox sage and Fox Yin Yin leave Mount Yujing. He chuckled and said, "Evil monk, you schemed against people and left behind such a small amount of things. Do you think you can just let it go? It's just the end of the first round. Our game has just begun." Fox Yin Yin's matter didn't cause the slightest commotion on Yujing Mountain. It wasn't until Tuntin sneaked into Fox Yin Yin's stone room to cause trouble that he discovered that the fox had already left Yujing Mountain. All the arrangements had been made, and Lin Feng wasn't afraid that the celestial fox great sage would go back on his word. After the mother and daughter left the mountain, Lin Feng no longer paid attention to them and continued to refine his magic treasures and study his Dao techniques. Time flew by. Everything on Yujing Mountain was as usual. Shi Tianhao was still in closed-door cultivation. Yu Hongyin and Yang Qing were also working hard, and the second-generation disciples were also working hard. Soon, Xiaoyan returned to Yujing Mountain with Lin Tong, accompanied by 2 phoenixes of the Great Saint Stage. One of them was Fei Yi, and the other was an expert from the Phoenix race who had reached the second level of the indestructible demon soul, the primordial true spirit stage. However, like Fei Yi, he was very polite in front of Lin Feng. On one hand, it was out of respect for Lin Feng's strength, but more importantly, it was because of Lin Feng's help to persuade Lin Tong to go to the infinite wasteland vastland. After thanking Lin Feng again, the 2 phoenixes extended a sincere invitation to Lin Feng to visit the parasol tree forest. Lin Feng agreed with a smile and chatted with them. Lin Feng didn't ask much about the negotiations between the Phoenix race, Jing Huanho, the Great Zhou Empire and Taishu Temple, and how the previous conflicts were handled. Fei Yi and Lin Tong didn't stay for long and quickly left. Xiaoyan sent the guests off on behalf of Lin Feng. After the 2 phoenixes left, Lin Feng smiled and patted Lin Tong, who had pounced on him and refused to come down. "All right, Tong, it can come down now." Little Lin Tong cried, No, Tong, I miss his grandpa so much." Lin Feng hugged Lin Tong and felt the changes in the spiritual energy in her body. Indeed, it was thicker and more agile than before. Just as Fei Yi and the others had said, the ceremony was very beneficial to Lin Tong while healing the parasol tree sovereign. When Xiaoyan, who was in charge of seeing the guests off, returned, he couldn't help but chuckle when he saw Lin Tong clinging to Lin Feng like a little koala. Lin Feng glanced at him, then looked at little Lin Tong in his arms. He smiled and said, "Tong, look over there. Someone's getting jealous." Little Lin Tong blinked and looked at Xiaoyan. She sucked on her finger and hesitated for a moment before saying, Then Tong will come find Grandpa later." She slid down from Lin Feng's body and flew toward Xiaoyan. "Daddy, how many times have I told you it's Godfather?" Xiaoyan, who was secretly laughing, suddenly felt a headache coming on. However, he didn't dare to show in front of little Lin Tong. He picked up the little girl and looked at Lin Feng helplessly. He said quietly, "Master, you can't always be like this." Lin Feng smiled nonchalantly. He looked at Xiaoyan and asked, "How was your trip?" Chapter 519. Xiaoyan hugged Lin Tong and patted her back with a smile. Tonger, you've benefited a lot from the Wutong Tree Sovereign's treatment ritual. I didn't make this trip for nothing either. As Xiao Yan smiled, two milky white flames suddenly lit up in his eyes. It was the pure, young, true fire, one of the 7 supreme flames in the world. It was the legendary ancestor of all flames, the origin and ancestor of the heaven primordial world's flames. It was the purest flame that could fuse with many other flames and subdue all evil. Silently, the pure young, true fire danced. It was not as dazzling as the true sun fire, nor was it as violent and ferocious as the evil nether flame. However, it had a serene and pure feeling of power. It looked ordinary but contained endless profoundness. Lin Feng smiled. This is the pure, young, true fire. If it were the black heavenly tribulation flame, Ksitigarbha true flame, or the red lotus karmic fire, you'd be in trouble again. Xiaoyan also laughed mischievously. His current gold core stage cultivation level. In theory, the limit of the type of true fire he can control is 3 kinds. Any more, and he will become a sick cat again because of the conflict between the true fires before and the backlash will bite back at him. The pure young true fire was the ancestor of all flames and had the mystical effect of fusing other flames. That was why it could barely coexist with the evil nether flame, true sun fire, and Nanmingli fire. It was precisely because of this that Lin Feng let Xiao Yin head to infinite wilderness vast land with ease. This way, when you carry out the fusion of 3 types of true fire, the difficulty of activating the celestial fire lotus will also greatly decrease. Lin Feng said. Xiaoyan listened and nodded his head over and over. Master is right. It is precisely so. In the past, when he was at the early stage of golden elixir, he had to be extremely careful when fusing 2 types of true fire, as though he was walking on thin ice. If he was not careful, the fusion might fail and he might even hurt himself. Even if it succeeded, it would take a long time to prepare. At the same time, it would consume a large amount of magic power. It might even drain one's essence, qi, and spirit. After one firmament flaming lotus, one would lose all their combat prowess. After Xiao Chan advanced to the middle stage of the golden elixir, the situation became much better. When he reached the late stage of the golden elixir, perfection and leakless, he could fuse the 2 great true flames into the firmament flaming lotus. Whether it was Lin Feng or Xiao Yin himself, they had initially predicted that Xiao Yin would need to form his nascent soul before he could control the dual flaming lotus freely. However, he was able to do it in the late stage of golden elixir. This was mainly because of an unexpected situation. Xiao Yin had mistakenly absorbed the Nanmingli fire, causing him to suffer a backlash. However, it was also in the process of combing the true fire in his body, slowly tempering his own magical power and stabilizing his realm that Xiao Yan's control over the true fire had improved to the next level. This was a blessing in disguise. After Xiao Yan advanced to the late stage of golden elixir, his control over the dual flaming lotus had exceeded his expectations. It could be considered as a disguised form of sharpening a knife to cut firewood. However, just like how the power of the dual flaming lotus and the triple flaming lotus was not as simple as 2 + 1 = 3, the difficulty of controlling them was also not a little bit higher. Now that Xiao Yan's cultivation was at the late stage of golden elixir, it was still like walking on a tightrope if he wanted to fuse 3 types of true flames to activate the firmament flaming lotus. The difficulty was extremely high, the consumption was high, and there was a high risk of failure. If there was a slight mistake in activating the firmament flaming lotus, Xiao Yan would be the first to be injured. At the same time, the more true flames he fused, the stronger his power would be, and the more severe the backlash would be. Now that he had the pure yang true fire, if he combined it with the other 2 types of true flames to activate the triple flaming lotus, the difficulty would be greatly reduced. The safety and stability would be greatly improved, and the success rate would be much higher. However, Xiao Yan, You have to be aware of this. Lin Feng reminded him. Even if you have the pure yang true fire, it will only increase your success rate of fusing the 3 types of true flames. Fusing the 3 types of true flames with the firmament flaming lotus will still consume a lot of your dermic powers. If you fuse the 3 types of true flames, you might end up like you did on Cloud Traversing Peak back then. After one strike, you will be exhausted. Xiaoyan nodded with a solemn expression. Master, please rest assured. I understand. Then, he smacked his lips and revealed a regretful expression. What a pity. I now have 4 types of true flames. If I could fuse them, what kind of power would that be? Xiaoyan also knew that he could only think about it in his mind and could not put it into practice. Now that he was at the late stage of the golden elixir, maintaining the 4 types of true flames in his body without fighting was already his limit. The risk of fusing the 3 types of true flames was extremely high, and fusing the 4 types of true flames had no chance of success at all. If he dared to do that, he would be courting death. Lin Feng looked at Xiaoyan with a faint smile. Brat, you're even more greedy than Tianhao. You have such a big appetite. If you're not afraid of being stuffed, I still have a 5th type here. He flipped his palm, and within the layers of space barriers that looked like transparent crystal walls, a ball of black flames was wrapped. It was filled with an ominous and terrifying aura, as if it could devour the heavens and earth and bring the end of the world to all things. Xiaoyan's eyes lit up. This is the mysterious heavenly tribulation flame? Lin Feng smiled. That's right. It is the mysterious heavenly tribulation flame. How about some? Xiaoyan opened his mouth. After a long while, he smiled awkwardly. We'll talk about it later. Lin Feng shook his head and said seriously, it can't be too late. You have to use it when you form your nascent soul. Hearing this, Xiaoyan was stunned. Master, I don't quite understand. Lin Feng smiled slightly. It doesn't matter. You'll naturally understand when the time comes. Don't worry too much. I'll plan for you. Before that, just focus on figuring out the Tao of the 4 symbols heaven-opening book. Hearing this, a thoughtful expression appeared on Xiaoyan's face. He nodded and said, Yes, Master. Disciple will focus on comprehending the Tao. After talking about business, Xiaoyan suddenly realized something. By the way, Master, we've already obtained a mysterious heavenly tribulation flame. What about the fox flame? Lin Feng turned to look at him. Why? You really like her? Xiaoyan pursed his lips. What are you talking about? I'm just curious. If she successfully refines the mysterious heavenly tribulation flame, I'm afraid she won't be far from the immortal demon soul realm. Indeed, but whether she can really succeed depends on her, Lin Feng said indifferently. She has already returned to infinite mainland with the sky, Fox Great Sage. Xiaoyan revealed a relieved expression. His days of being in the ice and fire dual heavens were finally over. Lin Feng asked with a smile, After you guys set off for infinite mainland, I cut off the dermic powers and divine senses on you. Tell me what happened after you guys arrived at the Parasol Forest. Although he had left dermic power imprints and dharma bodies on Xiaoyan, Zhu, Yi, and the others, it was to protect his disciples. Lin Feng would only split his divine senses to check on them when they were in trouble. Lin Feng did not care about what they usually did. Xiaoyan immediately told Lin Feng about what happened after Marquis Jing Huanho left and how he and Lin Tong followed Fei Yi to infinite mainland. There was nothing special about what happened. The Phoenix race and Parasol race were very moral and would find a way to return the favor they owed to Lin Feng. Although the pure yang true fire was extremely precious, Xiaoyan got what he wanted without much effort. The Wutong Tree Emperor had been waiting for Lin Tong's arrival. As soon as Lin Tong arrived, the ceremony began. Through the ceremony, the Wutong Tree Emperor effectively treated his chronic illness, while Lin Tong received a ceremony that was almost like a baptism, benefiting him greatly. However, the Parasol Tree Emperor's injury was not completely severed. It was only temporarily controlled. Xiaoyan said, according to the Phoenix race and Parasol race, after a period of time, they have to perform the incantation ceremony again. However, The time interval is very long. One round of incantation can last for at least 1,000 years. Lin Tong, who was also the Wutong tree heart, was previously lost in the Kuanpeng vault. For thousands of years, the parasol tree emperor relied on its cultivation to endure the pain. After hearing that, Lin Feng did not say anything. Instead, he pondered for a moment. During these 1,000 years, the parasol tree emperor should be recuperating in peace and not fighting anyone again. That's why it can last for more than 1,000 years. If it were to fight with experts of the same level, it would be hard to say how long it could last. Lin Feng asked, "Do you know why the parasol tree emperor was injured?" Xiao Yan shook his head and was rather troubled. "I'm very curious too. However, the people there are very strict and I can't find out." However, looking at the reactions of the Phoenix race and Parasol race, they were very awkward when the Parasol Tree Emperor's injuries were mentioned. Therefore, I speculate that it shouldn't be a natural disaster, but a man-made disaster. Lin Feng nodded his head slowly. The so-called man-made disaster, to put it bluntly, meant that the Parasol Tree Emperor had been injured by someone. However, he did not know who was so ferocious. The Parasol Tree Emperor's cultivation probably had to be calculated in terms of tens of thousands of years. It was already an unparalleled demon at the third level of the indestructible demon soul, the astral soul, as one realm. Although it had a mild temperament, it was extremely powerful. Even if the Parasol Tree Emperor paid the price of being injured to kill the other party, the person who injured it was still extremely powerful. If the Parasol Tree Emperor was at a greater disadvantage, it would be almost unheard of. As Lin Feng and Xiao Yan were chatting, they suddenly felt something. They turned to look at the other side. A crack appeared in the void there, and Kong Nanhua walked out from it. "Nanhua, what's the matter?" Lin Feng saw Kong Nanhua's solemn expression and immediately asked. Kong Nanhua answered, "Sect leader, I just received news that a large number of experts from the Shi and Yu clans were sent out to kill Tianhao's parents." Lin Feng squinted his eyes. "Tianhao's parents, they came out from the void battlefield?" Kong Nanhua nodded. They came out from the void battlefield and contacted people close to their clan, trying to find out about Tianhao's whereabouts. In the end, the news was leaked and the people close to them in the Shi clan were imprisoned. Then, a large number of Yuanning patriarchs from Shi and Yu clans were sent out to capture Tianhao's parents. Kong Nanhua took a deep breath and said quickly, "The couple was outnumbered and was forced to retreat to the void battlefield to hide. Now that they've entered, it'll be even more difficult for them to come out. Moreover, it said that Tianhao's mother was severely injured, and her fate is unknown." Chapter 520. The Shi family and the Yu family are very arrogant. Xiao Yan's face turned cold when he heard the news from Kong Nanhua. He was shocked and angry. Lin Feng asked silently, "Is there any news about Tianhao's grandfather?" Kong Nanhua answered, "His whereabouts are still unknown. Only Tianhao's parents came out of the void battlefield." After saying this, Kong Nanhua didn't say anything else, because he discovered that the current Lin Feng was extremely terrifying. Even though he still looked calm and collected, right now Lin Feng's entire body seemed to be surrounded by a calamitous aura, as if a calamity was about to befall the world. Xiao Yan looked at Lin Feng and felt warmth in his heart. In his memory, his master was really angry, and he had only seen it twice before. The first time was a long time ago, when Wang Lin had just entered the sect. Xiao Yan and the others were surrounded, and Xiao Yan was seriously injured in order to protect Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. The other time was when he had just absorbed the Nanmingli fire and suffered the backlash of the true fire. At first, Lin Feng thought that he was injured. Lin Feng looked calmly in the direction of the desolate sky valley and said softly, "Tianhao is still in seclusion. Master, I'll go." Xiao Yan cupped his fists and said with a stern expression, "Little junior brother is in seclusion now, and his parents were killed. The culprits must pay the price. As the eldest senior brother, I can't sit and watch my junior brother's family get hurt. This is also a provocation against me." Xianmin Tianzong. I can't let it go. Lin Feng looked at him and nodded. With a wave of his hand, purple gas gathered in the air and turned into a scroll. Immediately after, Lin Feng tapped the scroll with his finger, and the originally blank scroll quickly rolled up. The scroll kept vibrating in midair, and an incomparably terrifying aura was emitted from it, as if the world was about to be destroyed. Lin Feng handed the scroll over to Xiaoyan. Then his eyes flashed, and a stream of light flew out from his left eye into the space between Xiaoyan's eyebrows. Then Lin Feng said lightly, "Wipe out the Yu family." Xiaoyan smiled, revealing his snow-white teeth. "Master, please rest assured. From the day I found out about Junior Brother's past, this disciple has been looking forward to this moment." Lin Feng said, "I'll leave the Shi family to Tian Hao. I'll leave the Yu family to you." After Xiaoyan received his orders, he immediately descended the mountain. His first destination was the capital of the Qin dynasty, West Tomb City. The Yu clan's estate was here. He would first wipe out the Yu clan's estate in West Tomb City, then wipe out the Yu clan's ancestral land. West Tomb City's history was even older than Tianjing City, and it was currently the most majestic city in the Divine Land. Walking on the streets of the city, one could even feel the heaviness of the road beneath one's feet. The entire city seemed to be shrouded in a mysterious power concept. It was as if it had gone from ancient times to the present day, as if countless years had merged into a single moment. As one of the four great families of the Qin dynasty, the Yu clan had built a mansion in the west of West Tomb City. It occupied a vast area and had a grand aura. Even the servants guarding the door were incomparably capable. In the past, this was one of the most revered places in West Hill City. But a year ago, the prestige of the Yu clan suffered a heavy blow. In the Sand Continent City, Kunlun Mountain, and the conflict with the celestial sect of Xianmen, their halberds sank into the sand. This caused a devastating blow to the overall strength and reputation of the Yu clan. On the street opposite the mansion, someone looked at the magnificent mansion. "That's the mansion of the Yu clan in the capital?" He stopped for a slightly longer time, and the servants at the entrance of the Yu clan's house immediately looked over. Yu clan's mansion, unauthorized people are prohibited from snooping. That middle-aged man was also an early-stage golden elixir cultivator. Even though he was a loose cultivator, being scolded by a servant, he immediately felt a little embarrassed. But he looked at the tall gate of the Yu clan, and just from the gate, he could feel a strong fluctuation of magic power. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, but still didn't dare to behave atrociously. The Yu clan had been beaten to a pulp by Xianmen Tianzong, but it wasn't something he could afford to provoke. He resentfully turned around and left, coldly snorting. "You've already been beaten like a stray dog by Xianmen Tianzong, and you're still so overbearing? Do you think this is the past?" The middle-aged man was about to take a step forward, but suddenly felt that his body couldn't move. A bone-piercing chill spread throughout his body, and he shockingly discovered that his body was covered in a layer of blue frost. The bone-piercing cold completely froze all the magic power in his body, and he couldn't circulate at all. His flesh, spirit, and soul were also frozen. Even the thoughts in his mind gradually slowed down, and his thoughts seemed to be frozen. A white-clothed youth appeared in his line of sight, and coldly looked at him. "Anyone who offends the Yu clan will end up like this. My Yu clan has been rising for close to 10,000 years, and we've experienced countless storms. We've long been used to ups and downs. Even if Xianmen Tianzong is rampant for a moment and has committed many unjust deeds, they will still be destroyed. Even if they are destroyed, my Yu clan will still be Yu clan and will stand tall here. It's not something that a loose cultivator like you can gossip about behind our back." The middle-aged man struggled and roared. "I only said a few words, and you actually want to take my life," the white-clothed youth coldly said. "You want to court death yourself, don't blame me." Aside from the white-clothed youth, there were other white-clothed Yu clan members behind him. They had all returned from outside, and were preparing to return to the mansion. They just happened to bump into this middle-aged man. At this moment, they were all coldly staring at this person who made them burn with anger being frozen by the Xianming true water. For the current Yu clan, Xianmin Tianzong had already become a taboo and in existence like a reverse scale. Anyone who mentioned him would trigger a wound that was deeply branded on their soul. But I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said. A voice suddenly sounded from the side, and immediately after, a golden flame suddenly lit up like a needle. The golden needle exploded on the blue frost that was about to be frozen, and forced back the white-clothed youth's Xianming true water. The crowd of Yu clan disciples shivered in fear. Who is it? Without waiting for them to react, a majestic mana spread out, and everyone was already thrown off their feet. Only the middle-aged man who had just escaped stood blankly in place. The white-clothed youth was the one with the highest cultivation among the crowd of Yu clan disciples. He lay on the ground and struggled to get up. However, he instantly felt dizzy in his mind, and his whole body was in so much pain that it felt like it was being burned by a raging fire. He was aghast in his heart. He didn't expect that in just a moment, his soul and flesh would both suffer heavy injuries. He wanted to use the Xianming true water to suppress his injuries, but he didn't expect that the golden elixir in his body was dim, and he was actually completely unable to circulate the Dao technique of the Xianming art. Who is it? Do you know where this is? The crowd of Yu clan disciples were both shocked and angry. What appeared in front of him was a ball of golden fire. Countless needle-like, dazzling flames radiated in all directions, making people not dare to look directly at it. Like a small sun, it appeared in front of everyone. A voice came from the golden fire. Xianming true water? Then it should be the Yu clan's direct descendant. The white-clothed youth said angrily, "You know this is the Yu clan's territory, and you still dare to behave atrociously? It's the Yu clan. This means that I didn't accidentally hurt anyone." Within the golden fire, there was a faint silhouette of a person. He walked step by step towards the Yu clan's mansion, which was not far away. "I'm looking for the Yu clan." The people nearby all looked at this scene in horror. What's going on? There's actually someone looking for trouble with the Yu clan? The Yu clan has really declined. Previously, Xianmin Tianzong killed a few of their Yuanying ancestors, and in the end, they didn't even dare to make a sound. Now, someone actually directly came to their door. This time, their prestige will be swept to the ground. That's not necessarily true. This person's cultivation is obviously not that high. At least, he's not a primordial soul stage expert. As long as it's not a primordial soul stage expert looking for trouble, the Yu clan will not be destroyed. After all, there's a late-stage Yuanying ancestor overseeing this place. That's right. The Yu clan's mansion has set up a powerful formation, and with a late-stage Yuanying ancestor presiding over it, it's impossible for anyone below the primordial soul stage to break through. This person saw that the Yu clan is in trouble and came to beat them when they're down, right? But he doesn't know that a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Coming here so rashly, I'm afraid he's going to be badly injured. As expected of an old aristocratic family, they can't be insulted. The Yu clan's primordial soul stage expert, Lord Xianming, Yushin Tao, is still here, so the Yu clan won't fall. Even if Lord Xianming doesn't come out, there are still more experts in the Yu clan's ancestral land. This person can't overturn the heavens. The white-clothed youth lay on the ground and sneered. "You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Now, any Tom, Dick, or Harry dares to act wildly in my Yu clan. Today, I'll use your blood as a warning to all those who don't open their eyes." But that golden flame on his body, that seems to be the true sun fire. The white-clothed youth suddenly opened his eyes wide. Apart from the demon clan's three-legged golden crow, in the human cultivation world, the only one who has mastered the true sun fires, at this moment, the golden flame in the sky like the scorching sun had already arrived in front of the Yu clan's mansion. A violent aura spread out, sweeping away all who dare to block it. "You're courting death." From the depths of the Yu clan's mansion came a powerful fluctuation of power. The void at the entrance of the mansion split open, and a white-clothed middle-aged man walked out from it. Impressively, he was a Yuanying cultivator. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, the golden flame in front of him suddenly soared. The golden true sun fire turned into a ferocious tiger, full of killing intent. With a roar, it rushed towards the white-clothed middle-aged man with an early-stage Yuanian cultivation. The white-clothed middle-aged man only had time to condense a little Xianming true water in front of him to block the golden tiger. With a loud bang, the magnificent gate of the Yu clan's mansion was directly turned into ruins. The white-clothed middle-aged man was buried in the ruins, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Everyone who witnessed this scene sucked in a breath of cold air. Who is this person? He's too fierce. He sent his opponent flying with one move. An early-stage Yuanian cultivation couldn't even fight back. Even the Yu clan's gate was destroyed. This time, the Yu clan is really in trouble. The ferocious tiger formed from the true sun fire faced the sky and roared. In the golden flame, a figure gradually became clear. It was a tall and straight youth with a handsome face. He was dressed in purple clothes and a black robe. He raised his head and coldly glanced at the Yu clan's mansion. Yu clan, your creditor has come. Chapter 521. The magnificent Yu clan mansion occupied a vast area and had a majestic aura. It had already stood in West Hill City for a long time. But at this moment, at the main entrance of the mansion, the building that looked like a gate tower was directly destroyed. It was as if someone had shaved off a piece of hair from a majestic and imposing man. It wasn't that his hair was shaved off, but the rest of his hair was intact. Only a piece of hair was shaved off, like a scab. Instantly, his aura and appearance all became a joke. The Yu clan mansion suddenly lit up with a blue light. Countless runes and incantations gathered to form one array after another. A large number of array diagrams combined together, turning into a huge array that emitted an ancient aura that could seal everything in ice. It was as if a giant beast had been awakened. It was angry and wanted to tear apart all life in front of it. The ferocious tiger, formed by the sun's true fire, was calm and fearless. It rushed towards the Yu clan mansion and let out a shocking roar. The tiger's roar created the wind and violently attacked the ice-blue array. The person controlling the true fire of the sun was naturally Xiao Yan. He looked at the Yu clan mansion in front of him with a cold expression. Those who are not of the direct bloodline of the Yu clan, leave immediately. Otherwise, death or injury will be disregarded. When these words came out, the crowd was in an uproar. Someone recognized Xiao Yan. That's the eldest disciple of Xianmin Tianzong's sect master, Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan? Hasn't he not shown himself for a long time? Why did he suddenly appear here? Xianmin Tianzong? Didn't they win the previous battle with the Yu clan? I heard that it was the Yu clan who provoked them first and then rebuffed them. But this doesn't mean that Xianmin Tianzong will leave it at that. They are here to settle accounts. Then why didn't they come earlier? Why did they only come after almost a year? Who knows? Perhaps the Yu clan has done something to make them unhappy? Xiao Yan turned a deaf ear to the crowd's discussion. His expression was cold as he walked straight towards the Yu clan mansion. An old voice came from the huge ice-blue spell formation. Young man, you, Xianmin Tianzong, have gone too far. Do you really think that my Yu clan is weak and can be bullied? The voice contained powerful magic power that shook the surrounding area. Only a late-stage Yuanian patriarch could possess such powerful magic power. The onlookers were all shocked. It's the late-stage Yuanian ancestor of the Yu clan who is in charge of West Hill City. He was actually the first to be alerted. Facing a late-stage Yuanian expert, Xiao Yan sneered. Your Yu family knows very well what they have done. I just want to ask you, did you have a part in attacking my junior brother's parents? After a moment of silence, a voice came from within the formation. That's the Sure family's matter. My Yu family has been on good terms with the Sure family for generations, so I'm just lending you a hand. Xiao Yan interrupted him coldly. Enough. There's no need to say any more nonsense. It's enough for you to admit that you were involved. Then you can go die. The voice of the late-stage Yuanian patriarch of the Yu clan also turned cold. Ignorant junior. You're only at the late-stage golden elixir realm, yet you dare to be so arrogant. I'll capture you, and then ask your master how he teaches his disciples." Before he finished speaking, a giant that was tens of feet tall rushed out of the blue spell formation and stepped on the void. This giant only had one arm and only one eye on its face. That was like a water droplet that was condensed into ice crystals. It emitted a powerful force that could freeze the entire world. Once the giant appeared, an extremely cold aura almost enveloped West Hill City. It directly activated West Hill City's defense, which limited the power of extreme cold emitted by the giant to a certain area. When the overbearing power was still intimidating in all directions, the onlookers had no choice but to retreat in order to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Those who refused to retreat were instantly frozen into ice sculptures. This late-stage, Yuan patriarch of the Yu clan directly manifested his heaven and earth avatar. He wanted to capture and kill Xiao Yin in one fell swoop to avenge the humiliation that the Yu clan had suffered today. "Junior, your Xianmen Tianzong has gone too far. You've killed and injured many of my Yu clan's experts. Today, you still dare to cause trouble on my doorstep. I'll capture and kill you first. Consider it as collecting some interest from you, Xianmen Tianzong. In the future, I'll make you pay one by one." Xiao Yin sneered. "You only have yourself to blame for provoking me, Xianmen Tianzong. Now, you actually dare to bite back. Can your skin be any thicker? Or is it because you're used to being domineering that you've become stupid? You think only you can deal with others, and others can't fight back?" He stared at the heaven and earth avatar in the form of a one-eyed giant, grinning with a hint of ferocity. "To tell you the truth, 1 year ago, I couldn't participate in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain. I couldn't personally teach you bastards who dared to invade my Xianmen Tianzong a lesson. I've always regretted it. Today, I'm not in the mood to talk nonsense with you. If you want a reason, go find someone else." Xiao Yin clenched his fists and stretched them out in front of his chest. "Today, I only want to do one thing. Raise your Yu clan to the ground." The golden tiger let out an earth-shattering roar, merging with Xiao Yan's body. In an instant, a piercingly cold, murderous aura erupted. The violent, murderous aura made even his late Yuan opponent shiver. This kind of murderous aura is no weaker than the Hua clan's Azura tactics. Xiao Yin stared coldly at his opponent's heaven and earth avatar, pouring all of his energy into the tiger formed from the sun essence fire. After practicing the 4 divisions heaven opening scripture, Xiao Yin merged his own understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth into the azure dragon, vermilion bird, white tiger, and black tortoise. At this moment, he was in the form of the white tiger, in charge of killing, looking down on the world, killing all living beings. Unlike the vermilion bird when he fought against Tao Yao Yao, the current Xiao Yin was in the form with the strongest offensive power among the 4. The Cyclops Dharma idol shot out a thick beam of blue light from its single eye. Everything within its line of sight turned into black ice crystals, which then shattered into powder. Xiao Yin was fearless. The white tiger, formed from the sun essence fire, set off tens of thousands of golden flames that fiercely collided with the blue beam of light. A late-stage golden elixir cultivator was going head-on against the heaven and earth avatar of a late-stage Yuan ancestor. The blue and golden light continued to collide. Some of the sun essence fire was frozen, but there were also blue beams of light that were blown apart by the golden flames. The fierce battle between the two sides had already attracted the attention of the other experts in West Hill City, and they all came to watch. A few burly men dressed in the attire of the northern tribes looked at the battlefield from afar. They were from the northern militant royal court and had accompanied the northern militant right sage prince to the Great Qin dynasty. At this moment, the right sage prince was meeting with the Qin emperor in the palace. Some people accompanied him, while others were resting in their residences. They looked at the ferocious Xiao Yin and sucked in a breath of cold air. He's going head-on against a late-stage Yuan cultivator. This Xiao Yin is indeed worthy of being the eldest disciple of the celestial sect master. However, The heaven and earth avatar of a late-stage Yuanian cultivator is very powerful. If he continues like this, he will inevitably lose. Amidst the conversation, Xiao Yin was gradually frozen by the blue beam of light emitted by the Cyclops. However, he didn't care at all. With a sneer, the golden tiger formed by the sun essence fire suddenly disappeared, followed by a raging bluish-purple flame. The violent and tyrannical power covered heaven and earth, and a part of the sky was dyed bluish-purple by the terrifying netherworld evil light. The terrifying demonic fire condensed and turned into a purple tiger, which was even more ferocious than the golden tiger formed by the sun essence fire. The netherworld evil light condensed into the image of the white tiger, which was the most complementary. Kill! As Xiao Yin roared, the white tiger formed by the netherworld evil light had already forcibly torn apart the blue beam of light, and its violent power was fighting with its opponent. At the same time, the sun essence fire and the Nanming leaf fire also condensed into the image of the white tiger. The three tigers surrounded the Cyclops and launched a fierce attack. With the pressure of the three great true fires, even the late-stage Yuanian ancestor of the Yu clan, who used the heaven and earth avatar to activate the Xianming true water, couldn't gain the upper hand for a while. This kid actually has three kinds of true fires at the same time. Everyone from a Yu clan was shocked. There are too many evildoers in Xianmen Tianzhou. Not only that Shi Tianhao, but this Xiao Yin is also so ferocious. No, we can't let him go on like this. Today we must kill him here. The other people couldn't help either. Two Yuanian stage cultivators tried to join the battle to help their own clan members. And right now Xiao Yan's eyes are already completely red from killing. The white tiger formed from the three-headed true fire is looking disdainfully, other than that late-stage Yuanian stage Yu family ancestor. Other people will die if they touch it, die if they touch it. The Cyclops suddenly let out an angry roar and made a seal with one hand. The cold air in the surrounding space suddenly retracted. Next, the blue light in the Cyclops' eye dimmed and disappeared. However, the seal he made with one hand pressed toward Xiao Yin. In the center of his palm, there was a black hole. The endless cold air seemed to want to freeze the world and make everything return to the Ice Age. Cambrian Dark God Seal. Among the divine abilities derived from the Yu clan's Xianming art, this was the top spell. It could freeze everything in the world and make everything return to the ancient times. Xiao Yan's expression was cold and indifferent. He gently put his palms together, and the white tiger formed by the sun essence fire and the Nanming leaf fire returned to his side. They quickly compressed into two extremely condensed flames and then began to fuse. His 10 fingers moved nimbly as if they were picking leaves and flowers. In an instant, one spell after another was sent into the true fires in his palms. In an instant, a palm-sized golden lotus appeared in his palm. In the center of the lotus, the red and blue light transformed into a flower's stamen, gently swaying. The terrifying firmament flaming lotus faced the opponent's Cambrian Dark God Seal. The extremely hot and extremely cold forces collided, directly shattering the void. West Hill City's defensive formation was activated with an even stronger force. It firmly blocked the aftermath of the collision and protected West Hill City from damage. After the firmament flaming lotus collided with the Cambrian Dark God Seal, it turned into a monstrous golden sea of fire. Countless flames spread in all directions. Every flame that came into contact with the surrounding black ice spirits exploded violently. Continuous explosions. Endless explosions. Billions of flames and billions of ice spirits collided and exploded. The cold air was like dark clouds being dispersed by sunlight. It rolled and retreated. The ice spirits that were like black holes were blown into pieces. A large amount of ice was evaporated by the raging fire. The entire area around the Yu clan's mansion was enveloped in a vast amount of water vapor. It was as if there was a big fog. The white water vapor dissipated and a huge figure appeared in the void. When the Yu clan's disciples saw this figure, their faces revealed a relaxed expression. That was their clan's ancestors' heaven and earth form. However, almost at the same time, the huge figure suddenly knelt down slowly. Chapter 522. The fog gradually dispersed, and the one-eyed Dharma idol knelt above the Yu clan's mansion. The arm that he had used to cast the Cambrian Xianming God-sealing seal had completely disappeared from his body. His body was also covered with cracks, like a layer of ice that was about to break. The Yu clan's people's smiles froze on their faces as they looked at Xiao Yin standing proudly in the fog. In that exchange, just now, the Yu clan's late-stage Yuaning ancestor was defeated, and the Dharma idol was on the verge of breaking. A late-stage Yuaning ancestor was defeated by a late-stage golden elixir ancestor. It wasn't only the members of the Yu clan, even the other spectators all gasped when they saw the situation clearly at this moment. In the backyard of the Yu clan's mansion, an old man was sitting cross-legged in a quiet room with his hands forming a seal. The huge ice-blue array above the mansion suddenly emitted thousands of blue lights, which entered the one-eyed giant's body that was about to collapse. With the replenishment of the blue lights, the one-eyed giant's wounds began to heal quickly, and even his broken arm was reformed. The one-eyed giant's eye emitted light again, and an ancient cold aura spread out. It was even more powerful than before. But this time, the one-eyed Dharma idol didn't dare to face Xiao Yin alone. Instead, it was in the array, and its body and the array were closely connected. The power of both sides increased together. Countless runes and runes rose around the array and the one-eyed giant. Powerful magic power rippled out, and cold air spread in all directions. The Yu clan's late-stage Yuaning ancestor had completely given up the idea of fighting Xiao Yin alone. Instead, he activated the protective array of the Yu clan's mansion in West Hill City. He wanted to use the array to deal with Xiao Yin. The array borrowed the power of the world, but it had all kinds of disadvantages. For example, it couldn't be moved, and the arrangement was complicated. However, the power of the array was definitely the strongest among the spells of the same level. No matter which great power it was, their own mountain gate was the most stable, and they had an absolute geographical advantage. If you took the initiative to attack the enemy's nest, unless your strength was much higher than the enemy's, you would most likely be badly injured in front of the enemy's nest. Right now, the Yu clan wanted to use the protective array of the mansion to fight against Xiao Yin. But this also made all the Yu clan's cultivators feel ashamed and angry. They were beaten up by a Jindan realm cultivator at their doorstep. It was useless even if they had a late Yuanying realm ancestor. In the end, they had to retreat back to their nest to take advantage of the geographical advantage. Whether they won or lost this battle, they had already lost their face. Looking at this scene, Xiao Yin raised his eyebrows and smiled, his gaze revealing high fighting spirit. Instead, his fighting spirit became even higher. Forget it. If I waste too much energy here, I won't have the energy to attack the Yu clan's ancestral land. Thinking of this, Xiao Yin slightly suppressed his already boiling blood. Not choosing to face the formation in front of him head-on, the best dishes have to be left for last. With a wave of his hand, a scroll appeared in his hand, and an extremely terrifying aura spread out in an instant. This aura was sealed in the scroll, and not much was leaked. It was very weak, but this aura was extremely terrifying. In West Hill City, a few vast waves of divine sense came. Unexpectedly, the primordial soul powerhouses in the city were alarmed by this aura. Xiao Yin did not open the scroll. He only used his own magic to lift the scroll and let it fly towards the Yu clan mansion's array. In the next moment, all the onlookers widened their eyes. They saw that the unopened scroll lightly float above the Yu family's residence, emitting a cold and clear light. Wherever the clear light passed, the Yu family's protective array rapidly shattered. The one-eyed giant's Dharma idol, which was one with the array, was also heavily injured. It had already recovered, but now, A large area of it shattered like a broken pottery figurine. The late-stage, nascent Soul Patriarch's mind was connected, so he was immediately injured as if he was struck by lightning. This is the array that the Patriarch personally set up. It's an array that was set up by a primordial soul powerhouse. The ancestor's face was pale. The scroll hasn't even been opened, but the Patriarch's array has been broken. How is this possible? What is that scroll? Was it given to Xiaoyan by the master of the celestial sect? At the same time, Xiaoyan opened his hands to both sides, and two flames spread out. The left side was shining with golden light, and each flame was like a glaring needle. The right side was dark and gloomy. The blue-purple demonic fire seemed to come from purgatory, and it was going to destroy the world. Among the few types of fire that Xiaoyan had mastered, the celestial flaming lotus, formed by the fusion of the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire, was the pinnacle of the fusion. However, because the nether evil blaze was too violent, it was much more difficult to fuse than the Nanmingli fire and the solar true fire. Xiaoyan could now almost instantaneously cast the Nanmingli fire and the solar true fire. However, the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire needed some preparation time, and the success rate was not 100%. But at this moment, the scroll had bought him enough time. Xiaoyan leisurely took out the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire, and began to fuse the second celestial flaming lotus. Soon, a purple gold lotus appeared in front of Xiaoyan. A deep, oppressive, violent, and restless energy wave spread out, giving people a sense of oppression that was much greater than the first pure gold lotus. Xiaoyan let out a long breath and shouted in a low voice, "Break!" The purple gold lotus smashed toward the Yu clan's mansion. Boom! Amidst the deafening explosion, as far as the eye could see, there was a sea of purplish gold flames. Endless waves of fire soared into the sky, turning into a thick pillar of fire that shot straight up into the sky. The array, which had already been scattered under the pressure of the scroll, was completely shattered. The one-eyed giant's Dharma image was also burned to ashes by the fierce fire. The vast Yu clan's mansion was instantly engulfed by the sea of fire. Countless houses and pavilions disappeared on the spot, directly vaporized. The Yu clan's people hid in the deepest part of the mansion, looking at the scene in front of them with despair. Could it be that all the people from the Celestial Sect of Wonders are monsters like this? How can they be so powerful? What kind of people are we fighting against? Why didn't the clan leader come to Shilling City to take charge? The clan leader is an expert in the primordial soul realm. It would be easy for him to suppress this monster, but why didn't the clan leader come? It's over, it's all over. The mansion is going to be burned to the ground. Our Yu clan has lost all face. We're going to become the laughing stock of Shilling City. This was the capital of the Great Qin dynasty. Normally, if such a big thing happened, the Great Qin dynasty would definitely intervene. But this time, the Great Qin dynasty seemed to have become deaf and blind. They allowed Xiaoyan and the Yu clan to turn the sky and earth upside down in Shilling City. Other than preventing both sides from affecting others, they did not intervene at all. The Yu clan was in despair. The late-stage Yuanian clan leader's Dharma image was destroyed. His expression was ashen. He clenched his teeth and said, "Where there's life, there's hope. One day, we'll make Xianmin Tianzong pay the price. Let's go." He activated a secret technique and opened up a spatial passage from the mansion in Shilling City to the Yu clan's ancestral land. He guided the group of Yu clan disciples to retreat to the ancestral land. "Xiaoyan, this debt, my Yu clan will definitely settle with you." The magnificent mansion turned into a sea of fire and was burned to the ground. It was completely erased from this world. Xiaoyan stood in the air above the sea of fire. Hearing the Yu clan's clamor before they left, he laughed coldly. "Settle? This is just the beginning. I've said it before. Today, I, Xianmin Tianzong, will raise your Yu clan to the ground." He flew out of Shilling City and headed west. The other cultivators in the city looked at each other. West? Isn't that the direction of the Yu clan's ancestral land? The northern militant cultivators were also discussing Xianmin Tianzong, is actually so powerful. A late-stage golden elixir disciple was able to raise the Yu clan's mansion that has a late-stage Yuanian clan leader overseeing it. Xianmin Tianzong. Is he going to start a massacre today? But the Yu clan's ancestral land has Lord Xianming, Yu Xintao, personally overseeing it. No matter how strong this Xiao Yan is, how can he be a match? Xiao Yan is already like this. Then how strong is his master, the master of the Celestial Gate? Even if Yu Xintao is here, how can he resist? At this time, a large man wearing the luxurious clothes of a foreign race suddenly appeared. His entire body's vitality was as majestic as the sun. It was the northern militant Prince Yuxian. Let's go to the Yu clan's ancestral land together, Prince Yuxian said and took the lead. The northern militant cultivators obeyed and followed behind him. At this time, a stream of light also flew out from the imperial palace, also heading west. Their target was also the Yu clan's ancestral land. And to the east of the Great Qin dynasty was the Shi clan's ancestral land. A black-clothed middle-aged man with a steely expression was sitting in the forbidden area of the Shi clan's ancestral land. He sighed inwardly, then his figure disappeared. He hurried towards the Yu clan's ancestral land, but his path was blocked by someone in the air. Zen Master Dade put his palms together. Silently, he said, "Shi clan head, please stay." This black-clothed, middle-aged man, with a steely expression, was a Shi clan head, Shi Wu. He stared coldly at Zen Master Dade. So the Great Master has thrown his lot in with Xianmin Tianzong. Zen Master Dade smiled. Being taken in by the Master of the Mystic Gate, this old monk has the face to stay on Yujing Mountain for a long time. I have to put in some effort. Shi Wu said, "The Great Master is an outsider. If you get involved, aren't you afraid of being tainted by karma and affecting your cultivation?" Zen Master Dade chanted a Buddhist name in a low voice. "My Buddha is merciful and saves all living beings." This old monk's journey is precisely to help others resolve karma. Even if I affect my own cultivation because of this, it's nothing. Karma is also a kind of cultivation. Shi Wu was silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh. The various things in this world can no longer be explained in a few words. There's no benefit in saying more. Right now, I want to go to the Yu clan's ancestral land. If the Great Master wants to stop me, I'm afraid you won't be able to. Shi Wu was already at the second tier of the primordial spirit realm, the Void Realm. This time, he had specially brought the Shi clan's treasured magic treasure with him. Even if his opponent was from the Great Thunderclap Monastery, Shi Wu was confident he could defeat Zen Master Dade, who was only at the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. Zen Master Dade smiled. Everything is within the calculations of the Master of the Mystic Gate. Clanhead Shi, stay here and discuss scriptures with this old monk. An intense wave of magic power suddenly erupted from his body, causing Shi Wu to be slightly shocked. What kind of magic treasure does he have on him? It's not from the Buddhist sections. Could it be the magic treasure of the Master of the Mystic Gate? Sensing this wave of power, Shi Wu's expression darkened. He knew that he would not be able to reach the Yu clan's ancestral land in a short period of time. And at this moment, a young man dressed in purple martial arts attire with a black robe on the outside arrived at the Yu clan's ancestral land. It was Xiao Yan. Chapter 523. The Yu family's ancestral land was actually a great deep blue lake. On the surface of the deep blue lake, there were many rays of light that wove into a giant array above the lake. Above the array floated a mansion. This mansion, compared to the Yu family's mansion in Western Hill City, was even grander and even larger in scale. All of the buildings were pitch black and slightly transparent. They flashed with a dark luster, as if they were constructed from black ice. If one looked carefully, one could even see traces of cold air gushing out from the buildings. The great lake below the mansion was a deep blue. There were no ripples, and the vast lake seemed to have solidified, as if it was solid. A gust of wind blew past, but there wasn't even the slightest ripple on the surface of the lake. The entire lake was like a giant blue ice crystal. If one looked carefully, they would discover that this was a dead lake. There were no signs of life in it. The Black Mansion in Madeira, together with the great blue lake below, formed a single entity that exuded an ancient aura. It was like a door, and on the other side of the door was an ancient world, an era where all things were frozen. Xiaoyan calmly stood by the lake, looking at the giant mansion floating in the sky. In the void behind him, a giant figure was faintly discernible. This was the magical doppelganger that Lin Feng had given him. Just now in West Hill City, before the battle began, Xiaoyan had already released his doppelganger. Lin Feng's magical doppelganger automatically floated in the void, blocking the Yu family patriarch, Lord Xianming Yuxintao, who had heard the news. Yuxintao had no choice but to return to the Yu family's ancestral land. Lin Feng didn't pursue him. The magical doppelganger hid between heaven and earth, silently watching as Xiao Yin leveled the Yu family's mansion in West Hill City. His disciples were becoming stronger and stronger. There were many things that Lin Feng didn't need to do himself. He could just leisurely watch his disciples slaughter in all directions. In some special circumstances, he only needed to look after them. The people in the Yu family's ancestral land had long known that the Yu family's mansion in West Hill City had been attacked. They wanted to reinforce, but were forbidden by Yuxintao. Although Yuxintao didn't say it explicitly, many people knew that someone was stopping them from going to West Hill City. Therefore, right now, the entire Yu family's ancestral ground was in a state of turmoil. The younger generation of the Yu family was in a mess. The older Yu family cultivators all frowned when they learned that not only had Xiao Yin raised the Yu family's mansion in Western Tomb City, but he had also come to the Yu family's ancestral land. They were even more enraged. Could it be that the master of the celestial sect of wonders really thinks that a single disciple of his can charge into my Yu clan's ancestral land? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Kill him immediately. Otherwise, our Yu clan will never be able to stand on the divine land again. An old man said in a deep voice, "The key is not this Xiao Yin, but the master of the celestial sect behind him. He is an expert that even the patriarch is powerless against. He is the main culprit behind our Yu family's current predicament." "Then what do you suggest we do?" That person answered, "Capture the Xiao Yin, but don't kill him. Use him as a hostage to force the master of the celestial sect to be cautious and not dare to cause trouble. What we need now is time. The dual-pupiled person has officially entered the Taishu Temple and is extremely valued by the experts in the temple. Taishu Temple will not ignore us. As long as the people from Taishu Temple come, we will have the chance to settle things with Xianmin Tianzong. No matter how arrogant Xianmin Tianzong is, it will be difficult for him to defeat the power of the number one sacred land of the human race." The others nodded. "That's right. The primitive demon cult, Elysium, Reincarnation Sect, and even the Great Lane Temple, which one of them is not a powerful force that shocked an era, but in the end, they will still be destroyed and withered. Only Taishu Temple will always be the number one sacred land of the divine land. It will never be destroyed. It will never fall." Outside the ancestral land, Xiaoyan's expression was calm. He felt the surging mana in the Yu family's ancestral land and smiled. "Ignorant junior, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think that you alone can trespass into my Yu family's ancestral land?" An old voice echoed between heaven and earth. Xiaoyan smiled. With his current strength, he could barely flatten the Yu family in West Hill City. To flatten the Yu family's ancestral land, he really couldn't do it alone. But today he came prepared. He immediately walked towards the Yu family's ancestral land without hesitation. "Yu clan, my junior brother Shi Tianhao was harmed by his brother from the same clan, Shi Tianyi, and his exalted Dao Foundation was seized. After that, Tianhao's parents took him out of Western Tomb City, and it was you who chased after them for thousands of miles in a futile attempt to eliminate them." Xiaoyan's body flew into the air. He stepped on the void step by step, walking forward at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. Tian Hao was lucky. He escaped with his life and was accepted by my master as a disciple. He finally grew up, but you people still refused to let him go. You people tried to harm him several times. Tian Hao's parents were lost in the void battlefield. The family of three was separated. Not long ago, they finally escaped the void battlefield and returned to the boundless universe. They could reunite with their family, but you people still wanted to capture them and kill them, finally forcing them back into the void battlefield. Xiaoyan said coldly, "Do you think that with the Taishu Temple supporting you, you could do whatever you want? You are wrong. Today, I am telling you that if you have done evil, the heavens will punish you. If the heavens don't punish you, we, Xinmin Tianzong, will." Behind Xiaoyan, there was a roar. 4 huge flame wings spread out, covering the sky like a boundless sea of fire. 4 flame wings, 2 on each side, spread out symmetrically. There were 2 flame wings on the upper shoulder. The left was the milky white pure yang fire, and the right was the blue and purple nether evil flame. There were 2 flame wings on the lower ribs. The left was the pure gold pure yang fire, and the right was the golden Nanming Li fire with red and blue light. Compared to the previous 6 wings with 3 kinds of pure yang fire, the number of flame wings was reduced, but each wing was bigger. The 4 kinds of pure yang fire emitted a strong power, enough to make any cultivator below the primordial soul realm tremble. Another voice sounded in the Yu family's ancestral land. It was not the old man from before. It was a Yu family leader, Lord Xianming, Yushin Tao. "Your name is Xiaoyan, right? You are indeed outstanding. I am afraid that even sure Tian Hao may not be as strong as you. But no matter how outstanding a genius is, he can only become a real genius when he grows up. If he dies early, he is nothing but a piece of dirt." As his voice came out, the world within a radius of thousands of miles instantly became silent, as if it had fallen into eternal ice. The lake below the Yu family's ancestral land lit up. Countless complex symbols and patterns gathered, forming a magic array. The area was so large that it covered the entire lake. Under the illumination of the magic array, the Yu family's ancestral land looked like an ice river immortal palace. The world suddenly darkened. It was not because of the dark clouds covering the sun, but because of the extremely cold power. After freezing sound, even the light started to freeze. The living plants were frozen, and the lifeless rocks were frozen. Things with physical bodies were frozen. Sound, light, and even time and space without physical bodies were also frozen. Wherever the cold air spread, the void behind Xiaoyan shook. A giant figure that was more than 200 feet tall gradually appeared. The giant's clothes fluttered in the wind. He wore a wide robe with wide sleeves. His appearance was exactly the same as Lin Feng's. His facial features were also the same as Lin Feng's, but whether it was his clothes or his skin, they were all composed of dazzling golden flames. A pattern that looked like a sun appeared on his forehead, as if it was burning fiercely. The giant stepped on the void like the sun in the sky, extremely dazzling. It was Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor Dharmakaya. A water droplet that looked like ice crystals appeared in the sky. At first glance, it looked extremely small, almost invisible to the naked eye. But upon closer inspection, it seemed that this water droplet covered the entire sky. It was so large that it was impossible to estimate. It was as if the world was frozen in this water droplet. "Lord Xianming, Yushin Tao's voice came from the water droplet. Master of the celestial sect of wonders. Although your magical power is amazing, you still have to see where you are. You stopped me from going to West Hill City. It's not good for me to destroy your Dharmakaya. But now we are in my Yu family's ancestral land. Here, you're just a Dharmakaya. You can't use it at all." Yushin Tao's words were not wrong. The Yu family's ancestral land was the foundation of the Yu family for countless years. It was far from comparable to the Yu family mansion in West Hill City. In this place, Yushin Tao's strength would be greatly improved. Even if the opponent was stronger than him, he would still be able to fight. Just like how swordsman Flowing Light guarded the Yunxing Peak and Lord Tianfeng guarded the divine Wind Mountain. Lord Tianfeng, who was at the first tier of the primordial soul realm, guarded the divine Wind Mountain. With the 9 heavens astral wind formation at its peak, the indestructible demon soul at the second tier, even the golden crow great sage of the primordial true spirit realm could not do anything to him. This was the advantage of being in the right place. A large force had been operating for many years. The defensive power of its ancestral land was extremely shocking. If Lin Feng himself came, or if Yujing Mountain came crashing down, Yu Xintao would still feel uncertain. But if it was just Lin Feng's Dharmakaya of the Grand Sun Emperor, he had full confidence that he could defend against its attack. Originally, with his cultivation at the first tier of the primordial soul realm, it would be very difficult for him to control the Xianming treasure strategy, a Dharmakaya of the incarnation level. He could only use the power of a Dharmakaya of the spirit nurturing level. But in the Yu family's ancestral land, he had the opportunity to use the Xianming treasure strategy to reach its original peak power in a short period of time. Yu Xintao did not know that his clansmen had intercepted and surrounded Shi Tianhao's parents. After learning of the situation, he had already responded immediately and contacted others. As long as he persevered for a period of time, Yu Xintao believed that things would definitely turn for the better. The facial features of a Yan Emperor of the Great Sun looked exactly the same as Yu Xintao himself. His huge body that was 2,000 feet tall stood in the air, calmly facing off against Yu Xintao. He said indifferently, "I always keep my word. If I say that I will destroy your Yu family today, I will definitely do it." Hearing this, Xiao Yin, who was below the Dharmakaya of the Grand Sun Emperor, immediately smiled. He raised his right hand and showed the scroll that Lin Feng had previously given him. In the Yu family's ancestral land, the cultivators of the Yu family who had escaped from West Hill City all revealed expressions of fear when they saw this scene. In West Hill City, Xiaoyan had used this scroll to break the protective array of the Yu family mansion. What was even more shocking was that this time, Xiaoyan did not just take out the scroll, but actually opened it. Chapter 524. The scroll in Xiaoyan's hand was completely opened, and a terrifying power spread out. Wherever the aura reached, the cold qi of Yu Xintao and the Yu clan's protective array started to dissipate. That was a terrifying aura that could destroy the heavens, kill creation, and destroy everything. Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword qi. Once the heaven-punishing sword was unleashed, all things would be destroyed. A gray sword qi that seemed ordinary, but was actually like the end of creation, rushed out from the scroll. Wherever the sword qi passed, the space turned into nothingness and ceased to exist. The sharp sword qi directly cut through the protective array of the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, as if it was cutting through paper. In the depths of the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, there was an ancient building. That was the Yu clan's ancestral temple. At this moment, a dazzling blue light burst out, bitterly supporting the protective array and blocking the terrifying heaven-punishing sword qi. In the ancestral grounds, the Yu clan cultivators were enraged. Regardless of their cultivation level, they incited their magic power to support the array. The lake below had completely turned into a huge ice crystal, like a glacier. Vast amounts of spiritual power were all supporting the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Above the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, light flashed and an ancient aura spread out. Countless talisman characters appeared. One after another, light figures stood in the void above the ancestral grounds. They were the spiritual will of the ancestors of the Yu clan, and they joined together to support the Xianming array to resist the heaven-punishing sword qi. But the domineering sword qi continued to push forward, breaking the boundless blue light as it approached the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Everywhere the sword qi passed, the desolate and ancient buildings in the Yu clan's ancestral grounds that were like black ice sculptures shattered into pieces, turning into ruins. Yu Xintao wanted to help, but Lin Feng's great son, Emperor Dharmabody, had already rushed forward, and the violent heat almost instantly evaporated the cold qi. The Xianming array was suppressed by the heaven-punishing sword qi, and the power Yu Xintao borrowed from the array decreased rapidly. His heart sank, and he could only use the Xianming treasure strategy to deal with the Great Sun Emperor Dharmabody, although the Ancestral Grounds array still had power to support him. In order to stop the Great Sun Emperor, Yu Xintao already had to manifest his Yuan spirit incarnation. He used all his strength and could not spare any energy to care about others. The 4 true fire wings on Xiao Yan's back flapped together, and he flew towards the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Those who chased after my junior brother, and those who kill my junior brother's parents, step forward. Show some responsibility. In the Yu family's ancestral land, a nascent soul stage ancestor growled. The dual-pupiled person has already joined the Void Temple and directly became a core disciple of the Void Temple. This means that the Void Temple has already acknowledged his existence and acknowledged what happened back then. Your celestial sect of wonders is so domineering. Do you really think that no one can do anything to you? The dual-pupiled user is like a god descending from the heavens. He will definitely become a legend. No one can stop him. This is the will of the heavens. Sure, Tianhao of the Xian Gate Sky Sect is also a part of the will of the heavens. The descent of the Void Temple, the rise of the dual-pupiled person, it will be the day your Xian Gate Sky Sect submits. But, Xiao Yin said coldly, my junior brother was born a supreme being, and that Shi Tianyi is just a thief. You guys are the same as him, thieves and robbers. If you ask me, you should offer his great god eyes to my junior brother. But, Xiao Yin smiled, but no matter how you looked at it, there was a sense of violence in it. My junior brother may not be interested in his dog eyes. In the ancestral land, the group of Yu family nascent soul stage old ancestors all roared in anger. Capture him, capture this Xiao Yin. Only then can we make the Xian Gate's master restrain himself and retreat. The Xianming formation can't hold on any longer. We must capture this Xiao Yin, capture him. The Yu clan has a total of 4 late nascent soul realm old ancestors. One died in battle at Kunlun Mountain. The other had his heaven and earth law destroyed by Xiao Yin in West Hill City, causing his strength to drop greatly. At this time, the remaining 2 late nascent soul realm old ancestors both rushed out. The 2 of them flew out of the heaven and earth avatar together, attacking Xiao Yin. The other Yuaning elders surrounded Xiao Yin. The late Yuaning elder whose dharma was destroyed by Xiao Yin didn't participate in the attack, but he looked at Xiao Yin with eyes full of hatred. He formed a seal with his palms and shouted, "Show yourself, treasure!" In the ancestral grounds of the Yu clan, a bow suddenly flew out. It was completely black and emitted a majestic power. A thought came out from it. You brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth die. It was a spirit-nurturing gray treasure, the Xianming Bao. The Yu clan had a foundation of close to 10,000 years and produced many experts. Although they were in decline, they were still rich. Other than the Xianming treasure tome of the incarnation grade, they also had the spirit-nurturing grade Xianming Bao. The Xianming Bao opened up on its own in the sky. A huge amount of Xianming true water formed 6 black arrows. They were cold and gloomy and pointed at Xiao Yin. The Yu clan turned out in full force. Other than the clan master Yu Xintao, who was being suppressed by the Great Sun Yin Emperor, all the experts of the clan surrounded Xiao Yin. 3 late Yuaning elders led the team and took out their treasures. There were also other Yuaning experts helping them. They wanted to capture Xiao Yin, who was in the late golden elixir. They didn't want to kill Xiao Yin. They wanted to capture him alive. Only then would they have the bargaining chips to negotiate with Lin Feng and buy time for the others to come to the rescue. And their chance is only a short instant. Otherwise, if they let Lin Feng's Great Sun Emperor avatar break away from Yu Xintao and come over to protect Xiao Yin, then they will no longer have a chance. Therefore, they went all out with this attack. Xiao Yin was fearless. He knocked on his forehead with his left hand and said, "Show yourself, treasure." Red and yellow light flashed, and a black armor appeared in front of everyone. As the golden light flashed, there were flames leaping. A thick dragon's might spread out and turned into auspicious clouds, shocking the surroundings. It was Lin Feng's dragon god heavenly armor. Be it the dragon god heavenly armor or the Xianming Bao, they weren't in the hands of a primordial soul cultivator and couldn't unleash their full power. Even so, they were still very powerful. Back when the dragon god heavenly armor wasn't a true treasure, its power was already comparable to the real thing. Now that it was refined by Lin Feng into a true treasure, even though its primordial spirit was just formed, it didn't fear the Xianming Bao. Xiao Yin was covered in the dragon god heavenly armor. He roared into the sky like a dragon. Be it him or the dragon god heavenly armor, their power was much stronger than when they were on the cloud traversing peak. The Xianming Bao shot 6 black ice arrows over. The dragon god heavenly armor had red and yellow dragon shadows in front of it, blocking the attack of the ice arrows. The 6 ice arrows were all deflected and some landed on the ground. In an instant, the ground within a radius of 1,000 miles turned into black ice. The power of the extreme cold was terrifying. With the protection of the dragon god heavenly armor, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with fire. He stretched out his hands, and the Sun-Real fire and Nanming Li fire appeared at the same time. In the void between the Sun-Real fire and Nanming Li fire, there was a milky white flame surging. It was the pure Yang Real fire. The 3 great real fires fused together, and the destructive power started to surge. The space around Xiao Yan's body began to distort and break. The violent aura caused the group of Yu family cultivators to be endlessly terrified. Countless talismans and curses were shot into the flames by Xiao Yan. After a long time, the violent flames suddenly calmed down, and only a golden and milky white lotus remained. The red and blue stamens on the lotus swayed continuously. Xiao Yan pushed his hands forward, and the 3 flames fused. The firmament fire lotus with unprecedented power smashed toward the Yu clan. The heaven and earth were instantly lit up, but it was silent. It was as if a long time had passed before a deafening explosion could be heard. A huge hole had also been blasted into the icy lake below. The cultivators of the Yu clan were too late to dodge, but they were powerless to escape the bombardment of the Sea of Fire. The Dharma idols of the 2 late nascent soul stage patriarchs were all blown up, and even their bodies and souls were turned into ashes. It's fine if it didn't go forward to surround and attack Xiao Yan, but all the people who went near were all engulfed by the raging flames. The terrifying thing about the 3 fire lotus was that it was ferocious. But what scared Yu Xintao and the Yu clan cultivators even more was that the horrifying heaven-punishing sword chi finally broke through the Xianming protection array of the Yu clan's ancestral land and struck the ancestral temple of the Yu clan. The shadows of the ancestors were destroyed, and a huge amount of Xianming true water was destroyed. The ancient and majestic ancestral temple was split in half. A few figures appeared in the distant sky. The one in front was Prince Anliang of the Qin dynasty, Shizong Yue. He looked at the ruins of the Yu clan's ancestral land with a solemn expression and didn't speak for a long time. Behind him were gambling Dao Master Zhuge Guang, Stardo Dao Master, and several Yuaning experts of the Qin dynasty. Everyone's brows were tightly knitted as they looked at the scene before them. Their emotions fluctuated. The Yu clan is practically crippled. Although the primordial soul clan master, Xianming Dao Master Yu Xintao, was still resisting, it couldn't change the fact that the Yu clan was no longer able to rise again. The ancestral land was destroyed, and the Yuaning experts of the clan were either dead or injured. The high-level combat power was almost completely wiped out. The backbone of a huge cultivation force was completely broken. Lin Feng didn't even show up. He just let one of his late-stage golden elixir disciples bring his Dharmakaya with him, a magic weapon and a scroll that sealed his sword chi, and almost razed the Yu clan to the ground. There was no smile on Stardo Dao Master's face at this moment. He said in a deep voice, previously at the opening ceremony of the Xianmin Tianzong outside Shazhou City, the Battle of Kunlun Mountain and later in the ancient cloudy forest world, I have never seen such power from the master of Xianmen. Although the Xianming formation of the Yu clan's ancestral land can't be moved like the Nine Heavens astral wind formation of the Wind God sect, it is not much inferior with the help of the geographical advantage. The master Xianmen can break it with one sword today. Why didn't he do so a year ago in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain? Gambling Dao Master Zhuge Guang said slowly, "In a year, even if you cultivate in a cave that accelerates time 100 or 1,000 times, there can't be such a big difference. The only possibility is that the master of Xianmen we saw a year ago was just a doppelganger of him. His real body has never appeared. Maybe he is in seclusion, or maybe he is traveling, or maybe he is tied up by something. But that's not important. What's important is," King Onliang Shirziyue said, "what's important is that his real body has finally appeared since the Tianjia Peak broke the 6 meridians heavenly sword formation of Shu Mountain. Taishu Temple is going to have a headache." Shirziyue turned his head to look at the other side of the sky. But Xianmen Tianzong shouldn't be happy too early. If it is so easy to eradicate the aristocratic forces, my Qin dynasty would have done it long ago. Pull one hair, move the whole body. In the sky over there, the void was turbulent, and white clouds emerged from it. Taishu Temple is finally here. Chapter 525. The group of northern militant cultivators led by northern militant Prince Yuxian were also watching the battle in the Yu family's ancestral land. Apart from the Xiao Yan, if the other disciples of the master of the celestial sect also have such fierce strength, then it would be truly terrifying, a young man said. After they form their nascent souls, they will be completely invincible under the primordial spirit stage. Someone snorted. Weren't they already invincible under the Yuanying stage when they were in the early Golden Elixir period? Prince Yuxian didn't say anything and looked straight at the power of Xiao Yan's celestial fire lotus after the fusion of the 3 true fires. For a long time, whether it was the Yu family, the Great Qin dynasty, or their northern militant imperial court, the human cultivators of the divine land all had a consensus. That was that Xianmen Tianzong was extremely powerful, the master of the celestial sect. Lin Feng's cultivation was unfathomable, and his disciple Xiao Yin, Shi Tianhao, and the others were all monstrous geniuses. Any one of them was a proud son of heaven. But after all, because of their shallow foundation, Xianmen Tianzong was actually very embarrassed. The formation of their overall strength was a state of being thick at both ends and thin in the middle. After the Tianji Peak sword trials, the other forces still thought so. The master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, was a powerful figure that could be compared to Yin Nanlai, Xian Longsheng, and the others in the cultivation world. His disciples were also invincible in the same realm, and they could kill Yuanying cultivators with their golden elixir period cultivation. But looking at the entire Xian Gate heavenly sect, apart from Lin Feng himself, the only primordial spirit stage cultivator who is still a guest of the Great Thunder Temple's Zen Master Dade, there are no other primordial spirit stage powerhouses. Even a number of nascent soul stage powerhouses can be counted on one hand. Not to mention, compared to holy lands like the Taishu Temple and the Shu Mountain Sword Sect, even the Northern Militant Imperial Court, the Heavenly Sword Sect, and the Tianqi Sect had more than one primordial spirit cultivator. It could be said that if Lin Feng himself was not included, Xianmen Tianzong's strength was not the top. This is also why everyone publicly acknowledged Lin Feng's position as a giant. But to the Xian Gate Sky sect, it is still only seen as a new power and is unable to be mentioned in the same breath as the Void Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect. In time, when Xiao Yin and the others grow, Xianmen Tianzong Holy Land, Xianmen would be able to completely establish themselves as. However, as the old saying goes, only a living genius is a genius. If one doesn't transform their potential into true strength, then no matter how great their potential is, it's just a castle in the air. Tian of Martial Qi. From Su militant sect from Tianzong, so Xuanzong from sect of Qin militant was a Tian. Qin's clan Tian's rank was a Tian's prince's long from Qin's king. So the successor of Xianmin Tianzong had already grown to such a terrifying level. Everyone knew that when Xiao Yin and the others matured, with the potential they had displayed, Xianmin Tianzong's strength would grow explosively, and they would truly soar into the sky. But no one had thought that this day would come so early. The northern militant cultivators looked towards the clone of the great sun, Yin Emperor, fighting with Yu Xintao. Thinking that Lin Feng himself had not even appeared, everyone sighed in their hearts. A force, a large sect, a cultivator family. If there was no primordial spirit ox holding the fort, a disciple of Lin Feng could directly flatten them. Even with Yu Xintao holding the fort, the Xianming treasure book, and the Xianming Bao, the Yu clan was in imminent danger. Xianmin Tianzong was really about to become a major force. In the sky above the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, Yu Xintao, who had seen his ancestral hall split in two by the heaven-punishing sword Qi, roared angrily. Lin Feng, the Xianming Great Formation was completely broken, and he felt that the magic power that the formation had added to his body was finally about to completely dissipate. Yu Xintao manifested his primordial spirit incarnation in the form of a huge black ice soul, activating the Xianming treasure book and activating his own power to the extreme. A black-robed elder with blue hair and a beard appeared in the Xianming treasure book. It was the primordial spirit of the Xianming treasure book, and it also did its best to activate the Xianming true water. The Xianming true water that was as deep as the sea flowed in the sky, pouncing towards Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor clone. The black layer of ice spread to the great sun, Yin Emperor clone. The huge giant form from the blazing sun true fire was also frozen by this power of extreme cold, turning into a huge ice sculpture 200 or 300 zhang tall. Within the black layer of ice, the great sun Yin Emperor was vivid and lifelike. Yu Xintao's attack succeeded, and he wanted to escape. Although he was angry at the destruction of his family, he was not muddle-headed. This was just one of Lin Feng's mystique clones, and even if he destroyed the great sun Yin Emperor, it would be meaningless. However, it was not so easy for him to leave. Within the layer of ice, the great sun Yin Emperor suddenly revealed a smile. The corner of his mouth twitched, and instantly, the layer of ice shattered. In the next moment, the layer of ice completely shattered, and the great sun Yin Emperor rushed out from within. His body exploded with a strong light, and a bright light gathered in his palm, turning into a sun that rose slowly, shining brightly. In the next moment, this bright sun suddenly disappeared, as if a heavenly dog had swallowed the sun. However, the power aura was even more terrifying. Great Sun Divine Fist, Eclipse Change. The endless power of the sun, true, fire instantly burned and exploded, and a punch landed on the black ice soul formed by Yu Xintao's primordial spirit. Ice and fire clashed intensely in the world. It was as if a black ice rain fell from the sky, and Yu Xintao's primordial spirit clone was shattered inch by inch. No! The black-robed old man with a head full of blue hair let out a scream. Under the violent attack of the great sun Yin Emperor, he was shattered and no longer existed. The primordial spirit treasure, Xianming treasure strategy, was directly destroyed by a punch. It was a pity that it was destroyed by Lin Feng before it could unleash its full power in the hands of Yu Xintao, who was at the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. Yu Xintao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. If not for the clan treasure, Xianming treasure strategy, blocking the attack for him, he would have been killed by the great sun Yin Emperor with a punch. At this moment, the void in the distant sky trembled, and white clouds surged out from within. The clouds in the sky rolled, and the essence Qi in the sky condensed. The layers of void turned into clothes, condensing into the appearance of a middle-aged man. There was a white cloud embroidered on his clothes. This middle-aged man looked ordinary, and only his eyes were eye-catching. They were filled with rich emotions, as if they contained all the emotions of the world and all living beings. The middle-aged man was far away, but he stretched out his hand and caught Yushin Tao's primordial spirit incarnation. He then retracted his hand and instantly crossed through space, escaping from the Great Sun Yin Emperor's attack range with Yushin Tao. It was a simple action, and it looked extremely relaxed and casual. It was as if he was just reaching out to grab something. However, when this action landed in the eyes of Shi Zongyue, Dao Lord Xingdo, Prince Barong Yuxian, and the others, it made their hearts tremble. This middle-aged man's action was too relaxed. It was so relaxed that it did not give Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor Dharma body, any chance to react. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I have already done what I have to do. It was such a relaxed and casual action, but it revealed an extremely powerful mystique, power, confidence, and pride. Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor Dharma body, stood between heaven and earth, looking calmly at the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared. Xianlin Taoist, it's been a long time. The person who had come was a member of Taishu Temple's Grand Supreme Elders Guild. He was a third-tier primordial spirit realm expert and a path integration realm expert, Xianlin Taoist. After saving Yushin Tao, Xianlin Taoist lowered his head and looked at the Yu family's ancestral grounds, which had almost turned into ruins. His seemingly emotionless yet emotionless eyes flickered. Mystic Sect Master, you have gone overboard this time. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. A year ago, in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, Yushin Tao escaped with his life. On account of how difficult it was for him to cultivate, I did not seek him out for revenge. I was already being lenient. Now, the Yu family actually dared to kill the family of my disciple. Do you think that I can be bullied? You only have yourself to blame, yet you're blaming me, Dao Venerable Xianlin. It's really unreasonable. Xianlin Taoist frowned slightly. Yushin Tao has already explained to me about this matter. That is the Shi family's internal affairs. He was merely lending a helping hand to the Yu family. The Shi family's internal affairs should be handled by them themselves. Lin Feng glanced at Xianlin Taoist expressionlessly. Then he saw another 2 Taishu Temple cultivators slowly walk out from the void behind Xianlin Taoist. One of them was a lady. She had a pretty face and a peaceful expression. She was already a second-tier primordial soul realm cultivator, a void return realm cultivator. The other young man was a familiar face. He had a handsome face and was dressed in a clean white robe. The aura around him was light and gentle, without a hint of sharpness. It was as if he was a cool breeze or a spiritual spring. It was the former Taishu Temple's Empyrean walker, Pang Jie, who had suffered a setback outside Sankanen City. At this moment, the aura around him was in harmony with heaven and earth. He was one with heaven and man. He had clearly attained the primordial soul realm. After Yin Mingyue, Pang Jie had also successfully attained the primordial soul realm. He and the lady followed behind Xianlin Taoist. Silently, they looked at Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor's Dharmakaya. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the two of them before landing on Xianlin Taoist again. The Shi family's internal affairs? Back then, my disciple, Shi Tianhao, had a feud with that dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi. Surely, Xianlin Taoist doesn't know about it? Hearing Lin Feng's words, Xianlin Taoist fell silent for a moment before nodding calmly. I know what happened. Lin Feng's tone was calm. Since you know, then you should know that Shi Tianyi, the Shi family, and the Yu family owe my disciple justice. My disciple will personally seek this justice from that Shi Tianyi. If it is only between the two of them, I won't interfere. But if someone tries to interfere, I definitely won't sit idly by. Xianlin Taoist's gaze was calm. Everything that happened in the past is already in the past. My disciple, Shi Tianhao, has already been reborn. What happened in the past might not be his fate. It's a trial given to him by the heavens. Regardless of whether it is Shi Tianhao or Shi Tianyi, they're both outstanding talents of a younger generation in our human cultivation world. Their futures are limitless. If they continue to be entangled with each other, it will undoubtedly be a huge loss to our human cultivation world. Lin Feng's expression was still calm, but his gaze gradually turned cold. Justice is fate. In the past, someone conspired to seize my disciple's supreme martial artist spiritual platform. Today, he must pay the corresponding price. Xianlin Taoist's gaze also gradually turned cold. His brows knitted tighter and tighter, but he did not speak. Behind him, Pang Jie said indifferently, "Originally, there was only one supreme martial artist. Now there are two. To our human cultivation world, this is actually a good thing. We should be happy." Chapter 5:26. Since Shi Tianhao has been reborn, this is the best result. Slowly, Pang Jie said, "From the point of view of the divine land, Shi Tianyi and his mother did a good deed in the past, which is equivalent to further developing Shi Tianyi in addition to Shi Tianhao, turning the original innate supreme being into two, increasing the reserve of talents in our human cultivation world. Looking at this matter again after 1,000 years, our human cultivation world will benefit endlessly." Lin Feng did not look at Pang Jie, but looked straight at Xianlin Taoist. "Is this the attitude of Taishu Temple?" Silently, Xianlin Taoist asked, "What if not?" Lin Feng let out a light laugh. "According to what you guys mean, I should have dug out his dual pupils and given it to my disciple. Wouldn't this one dual pupil person become two? But unfortunately, this seat doesn't like that pair of eyes of his. Back then, what he took from this seat's disciple, he should obediently return it to this seat. A supreme pill cauldron is placed on the supreme spirit platform. Forming a purple core gives birth to a vision, and in the future, when forming the nascent soul, there will be a change. This seat knows what this change is, and your Taishu Temple also knows." Both Xianlin Taoist and Pang Jie behind him slightly frowned. Hearing this, the others revealed a puzzled expression, including Northern Militant Yuxian Prince, Gambling Dao Venerable, and other primordial spirit powerhouses. Only the expression of the great Qin Onliang King, Shi Zongyue, changed slightly, as if remembering something, and his gaze became even more solemn. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent, but his gaze was cold. This seat's disciple, Shi Tianhao, was still in his infancy when he was plotted against by Shi Tianyi and was born with a supreme spirit platform. Shi Tianyi, a god descended from the heavens, destined to be a genius? Everything was built on the persecution of this seat's disciple. Tianhao's life was in danger. His parents took him to escape, and they were even chased by the Yu clan. Tianhao became my disciple to learn martial arts. After the Yu clan found out about his identity, they tried to murder him several times. His parents went through untold hardships to return from the void battlefield. Just as they were about to reunite, they were ambushed and killed. Up until this moment, Shi Zongyue and the others finally understood why Lin Feng had flipped out once more, taken the initiative to attack them, and forcefully raze the Yu clan's nest to the ground. There was no denying this sort of matter. Although soul-searching was the work of the demonic path and was despised by the righteous path, if they really did search their souls when necessary, the Yu and Shi families could only obediently admit to it. Facing Lin Feng's icy gaze, no one doubted whether he could do such a thing. The female Taishu Temple cultivator behind Xianlin Taoist pondered for a moment and said, "Intercepting and capturing Shi Tianhao's parents is indeed wrong. Those who did it should be punished." At the time of the incident, Shi Tianyi was only a child. His mother was the mastermind. As far as I know, this person has already been executed. In recent years, Shi Tianyi has often been concerned about his younger clan brother. I think he would be very happy to compensate Shi Tianhao in other ways. The female Taishu Temple cultivator said, "Whether it is Shi Tianyi or Shi Tianhao, they will inevitably become the proud sons of heaven of our human cultivation world. Losing either one is an immeasurable loss." Lin Feng indifferently glanced at her. As far as I know, Shi Tianyi's past words and actions have never been the slightest bit remorseful. When the incident happened, he was even more clear about the cause and effect. He was even the one who discovered the secret of my disciples' natural-born supremacy. After reporting it to his mother, he set up the evil plan to seize it. If you say that he has the heart to repent, then you can return what he stole from my disciple, Tian Hao. What? You only admit to stealing and robbing, but you're not willing to return the stolen goods. The female Taishu temple cultivator was stunned. Pang Jie silently said, "Could it be that you want to destroy Shi Tianyi?" Lin Feng's expression was still indifferent, but his gaze became colder. Back then, he was able to destroy my disciple, so he should have expected this day to come. My disciple, Shi Tianhao, was able to rise again after suffering a disaster, so why can't he? Lin Feng smiled coldly. Tianhao almost died back then. As for him, with the quality of his body now, there is no danger to his life if he returns what he stole. Pang Jie frowned. How could this be the same? Shi Tianyi has already formed his nascent soul. When these words came out, even Shi Zongyue and Beirong Yuxian were moved. Especially Shi Zongyue. He had seen Shi Tianyi not long ago and knew that although Shi Tianyi had been cultivating in the heavenly grotto with accelerated time, he was actually not even 17 years old. Not even 17 years old. He had formed Yuanying, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries, a god descending from the heavens, destined to be a proud son of heaven. Now that he had entered the Taishu temple, his future was truly boundless, destined to become the main character of this era. Lin Feng's expression did not change as he said indifferently, "You also said that he is already a Yuanying cultivator, so how strong would his endurance be? My disciple, Tianhao, was only a baby back then. How much pain would he have to endure if his Tao foundation was stolen?" Lin Feng looked around, his gaze sweeping over everyone. Slowly, he said, "Shi Tianhao entered my sect, so I will uphold justice for him. Someone owes him, so he must return it. If he doesn't return it, then I will beat him until he returns it." Lin Feng pointed at the Yu clan's ancestral grounds that had already turned into ruins. Some things cannot be discussed. Xianlin Taoist waved his sleeves and stared at Lin Feng, saying, "Sir, this is not justice, but tyranny. You will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, causing a bloody calamity at every turn, and your methods are ruthless and cruel. It is already close to the demonic path." He stood in the void, his majestic aura gradually spreading out, as if he had become the ruler of heaven and earth. He was not one with heaven and earth, nor was he independent from heaven and earth. Instead, he wanted to become the controller of heaven and earth. Under the pressure of his aura, even Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor Dharma body, became somewhat unstable. Lin Feng smiled faintly. The 2,000 feet tall, pure gold blazing flame avatar collapsed with a loud bang, turning into a sea of solar true fire. The sea of fire suddenly separated to two sides, opening up a path. At the end of the path, the void split open, and misty purple gas gushed out. A young man in a purple robe slowly walked out of it. It was Lin Feng himself. Beside Lin Feng, there were two people. One of them was a middle-aged man. His whole person was like a gloomy thundercloud that never rained. In his dull appearance, there was an incomparably violent power hidden. Everyone recognized that this person was the current sect master of the Purple Heaven Taoism, Tao Master Thundercloud. The Purple Heaven Taoism had always been on good terms with Xianmen Tianzong. It was not a big deal for Tao Master Thundercloud to go with Lin Feng. What attracted people more was the long-bearded elder. His sword essence soared into the sky, like a road to heaven, overcoming all difficulties, cutting through thorns and thorns, all the way up to the ninth heaven. Sword immortal? Pang Jie and the female cultivator of the Taishu temple looked at each other and frowned slightly. The person who came with Lin Feng and Tao Master Thundercloud was the sword immortal of the Heavenly Sword sect. Although there was no direct evidence, those who really had access to high-level secrets all knew that the Heavenly Sword sect had the support of the Taishu temple. That was why the Heavenly Sword sect had the ability to sit firmly in the second position in the Nine Heaven Sword League and hinder the Mount Shu Sword sect. Sword Immortal actually went with Lin Feng when there was a conflict between Lin Feng and the Taishu Temple. There were too many possibilities. But no matter which possibility it was not a good thing for Xianlin Taoist and the others. Lin Feng himself walked slowly and looked at Xianlin Taoist. Diabolism? Xianlin Taoist, you are wrong. If you want to talk about the diabolism, the people around you are the ones who have really entered the diabolism. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and a ball of light and shadow flew out and floated in the air. In the light and shadow was a young man dressed in white with a white auspicious cloud embroidered on his lapel. However, everyone could see that at this moment, he no longer had a physical body. His current appearance was a soul that appeared in front of everyone after being refined by a secret method. As soon as he saw this person, Pang Jie's pupils suddenly shrank slightly. This young man was Pang Jie's junior brother, Chun Gang, a disciple of the Taishu Temple who had once gone to the Kunlun mountain range to find trouble with Lin Feng. At that time, Chun Gang had voluntarily been planted with a curse by Pang Jie. When necessary, Pang Jie could use a secret method to take over Chun Gang's body and refine it into a doppelganger to kill strong enemies that Chun Gang could not deal with. However, Pang Jie's secret method was blocked by Lin Feng, and Chun Gang's soul was also saved by Lin Feng and refined into a netherworld puppet. Generally speaking, if the secret method failed, the body and soul of the sacrificial target would be destroyed. However, Pang Jie did not expect that Lin Feng actually had a way to save Chun Gang. At that time, Lin Feng had used the heavenly barrier to interrupt Pang Jie's secret method. This was Lin Feng's original magical technique, which had never been used in the Divine Land. When the female cultivator of the Taishu Temple saw Chun Gang's appearance, she immediately became angry. Yellow Spring's true water, netherworld puppet? You actually refined a disciple of the Taishu Temple into a netherworld puppet? You really are an evil demon. Lin Feng said indifferently, I refined him into a netherworld puppet to save his life. Other than that, there was no other way. Because at that time, his body was being taken over by someone using a secret method to erase his soul and take over his body. I refined his soul into a netherworld puppet to ensure that his soul would not be destroyed. Hearing the words a secret method to take over a body, the Xianlin Taoist and the female cultivator of the Taishu Temple frowned slightly. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth curled into a faint smile. Who do you think is the person who wants to take over his body? The Xianlin Taoist took a deep breath and stared straight at Lin Feng, not saying a word. Let us see who exactly is the evil demon. Lin Feng clapped his hands and directly removed the netherworld puppet technique on Chun Gang's body. However, his magic power was attached to Chun Gang's soul, directly drawing out the memories in the depths of Chun Gang's soul, turning them into images that were displayed in front of everyone. Lin Feng cast the spell in front of everyone, openly and without any falsehood. After removing the netherworld puppet technique, there was no possibility of controlling Chun Gang. Everyone present was a primordial spirit cultivator, and they could all see that Lin Feng did not do anything. He did not need to fake anything, and it was enough for him to present everything as it was. The images flashed by quickly. There was the memory of Pang Jie casting a spell to carve a curse on Chun Gang's forehead, as well as the memory of Chun Gang activating the ritual of taking over his body at the last moment of his life to receive Pang Jie to take over his body. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Even though Chun Gang was willing, but Pang Jie actually sacrificed himself to take over his own junior brother's body. This kind of action is completely different from the Void Temple, the dignified #1 holy land of the righteous path. Especially through the display of Chun Gang's memories, it was clear that Pang Jie had not only cast a curse on his body. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Pang Jie, Xianlin Taoist, and the others in front of him. Indescribable shock, disbelief, disdain, and mockery. All sorts of emotions appeared in everyone's eyes. It was as if a sharp blade was carving out cracks after cracks on the eternal reputation of the Taishu Temple in the great Tianyuan world. Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back and smiled faintly. Now answer me. Who is the cruel and vicious one? Who is the evil demon here? Chapter 527. Although Lin Feng's tone was indifferent, his words were as sharp as knives, slicing the faces of Xianlin Taoist and the others into bloody pieces. Casting a secret technique on a fellow disciple, carving runes and curses on him so that he could possess and refine him into his avatar at any time was something that could only be seen in the sects of the diabolism. Even if Chun Gang and the others were doing it willingly, such an act had cast a shadow over the glorious image of Taishu Temple. All along, Taishu Temple had been the #1 sacred place in the cultivation world of the Divine Land. At the same time, it was also the leader of the righteous path. During the war between the righteous path and the diabolism, Taishu Temple had led the masses and wiped out the sects of the diabolism. It was then that the righteous path was flourishing while the diabolism was weak. However, who would have thought that there would be a disciple of Taishu Temple who would resort to such cruel means? Moreover, Pang Jie was not an ordinary disciple. He had once been the leader of the disciples of Taishu Temple who had entered the human realm and was known as the Taoist world wayfarer of Taishu Temple. Such a person was fully deserving of being one of the leading figures of the new generation of Taishu Temple. With such a scandal on Pang Jie, he was not the only one who would be slapped in the face. Even the Taishu Temple would be shamed because of it. The prestige that had been accumulated over countless years would be dealt a blow. Pang Jie stood calmly in the void, his face expressionless. He allowed the others to stare at him like knives. Just a moment ago, he was still a high-spirited heavenly ruler of the new generation of Taishu Temple. Now, he was about to fall into a situation where his reputation was almost ruined. There was no hysteria, no denial, no pestering, no anger. Pang Jie stood there silently. He looked at Lin Feng with a strange gaze. During the Battle of the Sand Continent, Pang Jie did not go himself, but challenged Lin Feng with his avatar. In the end, he was suppressed by Lin Feng and had to beg for mercy from Yin Mingyue to escape. As a Taoist world wayfarer, he had lost all face. Compared with the divine sense and status that Lin Feng had shown later, he was actually not that ashamed. Heaven Wind Tao Master, an expert at the primordial soul stage, was killed by Lin Feng, and the Golden Crow Great Sage, one of the 10 sages of the Demon Clan, was captured. Recently, even the 4 second-tier Essence Soul Realm Sword Masters of the Mount Shu Sword Sect, who were Sword Masters of the Void Return Realm, had suffered a crushing defeat. Even one of the major figures in the vast land of the Divine Continent, the Mount Shu Sword Sect Master Xian Longxing's Sword Chi Dharma body, had been destroyed by Lin Feng. However, during the battle in the Sand Continent, Pang Jie actually had his own ideas. In order to break through the bottleneck and reach the primordial soul realm, he had given up his reputation. After leaving the Sand Continent, Pang Jie had been cultivating on White Cloud Mountain. Finally, he had successfully broken through to the primordial soul realm recently and successfully cultivated a primordial soul incarnation. Once his primordial spirit was formed, he would be free and have a bright future. From this moment on, Pang Jie was no longer a rising star or a genius with potential. His potential had been successfully transformed into strength. From now on, he was the true pride of the heavens and had officially stepped onto the stage of the great heaven primordial world. If he continued on this path, he was destined to leave his name in the history books. Looking back, the fame he had gained yesterday was nothing more than smoke. Pang Jie was like the rising sun in the east. He had finally reached the peak and was like the sun in the middle of the sky. But at this moment, he met Lin Feng again. Then he was shocked to find that even though he had achieved the primordial spirit, he could not be compared to Lin Feng at this moment. The difference between them was even greater than when they were outside the Sand Continent. At that time, he was the pride of the heavens, the leader of the Taishu Temple disciples who had entered the world, the Taoist world wayfarer, and the top leader of the younger generation. On the other hand, Lin Feng was not well known. He had just made a name for himself, and his background was a mystery. Most people did not even know of his existence. Those who knew were guessing where he had come from. Now, Pang Jie had achieved the primordial spirit realm and officially stepped into the core circle of the Taishu Temple. At the same time, he had also become an important figure in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land. His enduring humiliation and meticulous planning had finally paid off. He had truly advanced a step further. But now, Lin Feng had impressively become a super big shot of the Divine Land that was on the same level as his senior, the abbot of the Taishu Temple, Yin Nanlai. Even with Pang Jie's strong Taoist heart, he was slightly at a loss at this moment. Once upon a time, Lin Feng was like a floating cloud in his eyes, not worth mentioning. Later on, Lin Feng became his imaginary enemy, an opponent of equal weight. But looking back at it now, everything was like a joke. The female cultivator of the Taishu Temple beside him was silent, while the Xianlin Taoist frowned. There was a genuine look of disappointment in his eyes. He turned to look at Pang Jie and said, "You have done wrong in this matter." Silently, Pang Jie said, "Since every disciple of the Taishu Temple has enjoyed the glory of the sect, it is only natural for them to contribute to the sect. Whether it is right or wrong should be judged by the future generations." He raised his head to look at the Xianlin Taoist. Both of their gazes were the same. They were filled with countless sincere feelings, yet they seemed to be indifferent and emotionless at the same time. "Your disciple has also been nurtured by the temple. If Junior Brother Chun and the others can make sacrifices, so can your disciple." Pang Jie let out a long sigh and said, "Master, do it. Your disciple will gladly endure any hardship. I only hope that I can clear the name of the sect." The Xianlin Taoist looked at Pang Jie. This was his direct disciple, and he had been nurturing him for a long time. But now, he had to suppress him with his own hands. He raised his hand, and thousands of rays of white light were released from the void. A huge stone tablet descended from the sky. On the front of the stone tablet, there were 2 words, punishment, and on the back, there were 9 lines of words. These were the 9 commandments of the Taishu Temple. The 5th commandment, "Do not be jealous of your fellow disciples. Do not kill each other," was flashing with light. This tablet was a treasure used by the Taishu Temple to punish its own disciples. It had not been used for a long time. Now that it had descended from the sky, it immediately suppressed Pang Jie. Those who were suppressed by the Taishu demon suppressing steel would not die, but they would forever be suppressed by the magical power of the treasure. As long as the treasure was not broken, they would never be able to escape. It was equivalent to being imprisoned for life. Pang Jie was in the white light below the Taishu demon suppressing steel. His figure gradually disappeared. At the last moment, he stared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked calm. He did not look at Pang Jie. Instead, he looked at the Taishu demon suppressing steel in the sky with interest. Then, his gaze fell on the Xianlin Taoist, and he nodded slightly. Without the slightest intention of shirking responsibility, he did not go back on his words. Without hesitation, he directly suppressed his own direct disciple, the core disciple of the Taishu Temple, Pang Jie. It seemed that he was forced into a corner by Lin Feng. However, it showed a bit of an open and honest attitude, showing the calmness of the #1 holy land of the Taishu Temple. There will always be dead branches in a big tree. What Pang Jie did would certainly affect the reputation of the Taishu Temple. However, the clean and efficient way of handling it had reduced the negative impact to the minimum. In this way, it seemed that Lin Feng had some intention of targeting the Taishu Temple. He had ulterior motives. The gambling Lord Zhuge Guang, who was watching from the side, used his mana to transmit his voice to the Prince of Anliang, Shi Zongyue. The Xianmin Taoist master could have communicated with the Taishu Temple in private. Now that he has exposed the matter in public, it is equivalent to humiliating the Taishu Temple. With such obvious hostility, although the Taishu Temple has dealt with Pang Jie, they will not feel happy. Is Xianmin Tianzong going to completely become enemies with the Taishu Temple? The Xianmin Taoist master's move is not wise. The Star Dipper Taoist master also frowned slightly. Is it worth it to fight to the death with the Taishu Temple for a disciple? Both sides are not giving in. Isn't the Taishu Temple also protecting Shirtiani? However, this time it is indeed the Taishu Temple that is in the wrong. The Prince of Anliang, Shi Zhongyue, said slowly. However, the radicals of the Taishu Temple have always been overbearing. If it were not for the suppression of the conservatives, they would have already begun to expand. He glanced at the sword immortal beside Lin Feng and said lightly, however, the Xianmen Taoist master did not completely become enemies with the Taishu Temple. It is just. The eyes of the Xianlin Taoist also fell on Lin Feng. His eyes were full of pressure. The Taishang elder of the Taishu Temple was the backbone of the radicals of the Taishu Temple. He had always been committed to promoting the Taishu Temple to lead the masses, to rule the heavens, and to become the supreme ruler of humanity. Although the conservatives of the Taishu Temple were now in power, the Xianlin Taoist firmly believed that all obstacles would eventually disappear. The sudden rise of new forces like Xianmen, Tianzong, and Lin Feng would naturally arouse the vigilance of the radicals of the Taishu Temple and secretly suppress them. And Lin Feng's move to humiliate the Taishu Temple at this moment made the Xianlin Taoist completely put him into the category of people who obstructed the path of the Taishu Temple. This made the Xianlin Taoist officially hostile towards him. Lin Feng's expression was still calm as he looked at the Xianlin Taoist calmly. He was indeed deliberately humiliating the Taishu Temple. Usually, everyone could live in harmony. Lin Feng always had Chun Gang in his hands, but he had never really played this card. But some things did not allow for the slightest concession. Since the Xianlin Taoist and Peng Jie wanted to protect Shirtiani and even tried in vain to invert the truth and seize the moral high ground to falsely accuse Lin Feng, then naturally, Lin Feng would not give them any face. If you don't want people to know, then don't do it. He would not frame you, but since you have done it, when you are humiliated, you have to stand up straight. The Taishu Temple will always be the Taishu Temple. Even if there are occasionally black sheep, it will not affect the good reputation of the temple, Lin Feng said silently. But the matter with Peng Jie, Xianlin Taoists should learn from it. Some people may indeed have some talent in the path of cultivation, but their nature is corrupt. It is really hard to carve a rotten wood. Beside the Xianlin Taoist, the Taishu demon suppressing steel's light flashed. His gaze pierced through the void and stared at Lin Feng. The matters of the Taishu Temple cannot be discussed by unrelated people. Lin Feng smiled carelessly. Unrelated people? Very well, now it is related. Since you have confirmed that Shirtiani is the heir of the Taishu Temple, now the disciple of the Xianmen Tianzong Temple would like to have a spar with the disciple of the Taishu Temple. But I wonder, do you dare to fight? Lin Feng clapped his hands lightly. The void behind him surged with clear light, and a tall celestial mountain appeared faintly. A figure flew down from the celestial mountain. He was dressed in purple, with black hair that reached his shoulders. His lips were red, and his teeth were white. His face was handsome, and he looked no more than 12 or 13 years old. But the magical power rippling from his body was extremely majestic, and there was endless light surrounding his body. It was as if a god had descended. The person who came was the tiny Shi Tianhao. He had been in closed-door training for a long time, and he finally came out. Shi Tianhao came to the side of Lin Feng and looked at the Xianlin Taoist fearlessly. He said calmly, Xianmen Tianzong disciple Shi Tianhao wishes to fight with the disciple of the Taishu Temple Tiani. My little brother, do you dare to accept the challenge? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.